This episode is brought to you in part by Exoterra. If you're as passionate about reptiles and amphibians as I am, you know that quality matters. I use Exoterra products on all my reptile and amphibian enclosures, which is why I'm excited to be partnering with them. From naturalistic decor to innovative lighting and enclosures of all sizes, Exoterra has everything you need for your cold-blooded companions. Exoterra. Make your reptiles feel at home. This episode contains a paid sponsorship placement for True Chroma by Faunalux. Lighting reptiles isn't just about brightness or giving UVB, it's about illuminating the world that animals actually thrive in. Introducing True Chroma by Faunalux, a premium, revolutionary LED spotlight purpose-built for animals. Faunalux has worked with lighting experts and biologists to develop something totally new. Reptile Vision Technology, a bespoke single-source chip delivering high levels of visible light and proportional UVA1. That means your animals can get true full-color vision for the first time. Tried and tested by zoos, vets, and passionate keepers worldwide, True Chroma is now available at fauna-lux.com/expertidiot10 for 10% off your order today. True Chroma from Faunalux. Educated by nature. This episode is brought to you in part by Unlimited Exotic Pets. Every day is Veranda Day for Nick Lillis, and it shows. At Unlimited Exotic Pets, Nick produces high-quality monitor lizards with a deep commitment to ethical care practices and top-tier nutrition. These aren't just pets. They're responsibly bred, ethically raised animals. Whether you're looking for a new companion, starting a breeding project, or anything in between, Nick has you covered. Unlimited Exotic Pets, keeping and breeding quality without limitations. Love reptiles? Don't miss this. If you're passionate about reptiles, amphibians, and everything cold-blooded, Reptiles magazine is a must-have. Each issue is packed with expert care tips, stunning photography, and the latest news in the reptile world. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or just starting your reptile journey, this magazine has something for you. Subscribe today and stay informed on the best ways to care for your scaly friends. For only $14.99 a year, you can step outside your algorithm and get exposure to things that you wouldn't normally see or learn about. My family reads Reptiles magazine, and you should too. Visit subscribe.reptilesmagazine.com to get started. This is the Expert and the Idiot podcast. If you like the show and you'd like to support us, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. Some benefits include getting access to new episodes up to a month in advance. There's also links to USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not already a member, please sign up. Enjoy the show. I'm assuming that if it's water from a crocodile enclosure, it's got to be pretty friggin' nasty, right?
Well, we have a huge filtration room. We have fish in there. We're feeding them every day, So I feel like it looks clean, but there's just things happening. There's also algae and branches and whatever else. So
I'm kind of curious. Do you guys treat your own wastewater and everything? Like, do you guys treat, what kind of water treatment do you have at a zoo?
So we have an aquatic company that actually helps us that does all of our water quality. So we have some big vats that we make up salt water and make up RO water and fresh water for our aquariums and all that kind of thing, and our croc exhibits. And so they do testing on that weekly just to see what's there. But mostly all the spraying, all the stuff we use, we just do it. We have an RO system, and then they make up the water and do that. So as far as, I don't know that I could tell you the nitty gritty because I kind of have somebody else do it for us.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious if maybe. But
the city tests. So we work for the city of Norfolk. So the city has a water quality specialist that tests the water. So every other week, I send in a sample of crocodile water. We have to do 2 sterile bottles that we have to send in.
Uh-huh.
And we send it in with an otter sample from like our otter pool. And then the other weeks they do like a tiger and something else. So it's like it all rotates, and whoever this guy is, I've never met him. I just get emails from him every other week telling me what my levels are. And I'm like, and he never tells me anything good or bad. I'm always like, it's all the same all the time. So I guess that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine there's no compliance to be within, right? I mean,
there is for marine mammals, but not for reptiles. So,
interesting.
But like, so for otters, otters are considered marine mammals, but like not for tigers and not for orangutans, since we test the water in those. But the otters, they have to be in a certain level. But then I asked the girl that's over that, and she doesn't know either. So I'm like, we pay this company to do all this stuff, and they tell us stuff, but they don't tell us everything we need to know. Sometimes I feel so.
Interesting. So, so there's actually a city official that's coming in to do the sampling, and then it goes off to a third-party lab for testing?
We actually I collect the sample for us, and then we send it. Then somebody takes it down to the city, and that guy at the lab, I've never been down there, but I'm assuming it's at a lab, and he does all the sampling, and then he emails us the results.
Okay. Interesting. And what did you say you guys use RO water for?
We use it basically for everything, actually kind of for everything. So, because we spray everything every day, so that way it doesn't mess up the glass as much.
Yeah, 100%.
For amphibians, we reconstitute it whenever we do those exhibits to make it so we're not clearing out their systems too much. But that's what we use. We have a big system we use for like our fish as well, so that way they reconstitute it before they put it back in there. Just because like the city pH comes in always at like 7.6, 7.5. So they try to get like the water as perfect as possible, and then add the things in we need to add in to make it so it all works right.
Okay. Yeah, that's so I use RO with for my snakes and everything. And I was kind of, I know that RO is pretty deficient in minerals. But I figured since they're getting whole prey items with bones and all the minerals from the animals that they're consuming, I wasn't overly concerned with it.
Well, and really, if they stick their face in there and they have anything on their face, that reconstitutes it somewhat too, because it's not pure at that point. It's not really, it's not like they're like, if it was a frog and you put it in there, it might like turn them inside out, but it doesn't really seem to do that. We've used it lots of ways. We've had it where we have a frog that's acting funny or bloating a little bit, and we'll soak them in RO water for a little bit, and it seems to help kind of level them out. Because most of the frog issues end up being pH issues.
Huh.
So it's like, because you don't have enough drainage, so they're just sitting in there. And like if you have a peat mixture, because your peat pH is like 3.4 or something like that, it's real low.
Very
and
acidic.
So if you, depending on what your drainage is like, you can really affect your frogs in the ground if they're sitting in the water because they're just absorbing it.
So, and is that peat mixture very acidic just because of the bioload in it, just all the bacteria producing
peat
acid?
Moss in general is like a 3 something just on its own.
Wow.
So we take it and we'll mix, like we don't use a lot of peat. We use some depending on like if we're making a bog or something like that, but we use a lot of cocoa and a lot of oak leaves just to kind of add in tannins. So we use a lot of leaf litter and cocoa, and we might add in some sand or some turfus, which is like clay. We might add that in for drainage. We've done a couple different things, but the problem is as you add in more soils and sands and things like that, depending on what you have, it just scratches the glass up if you have something that's moving a lot.
Yeah.
So I've switched. So we used to make this ABG, the Atlantic Biological Garden bioactive soil, but it was like if we had like beaded lizards or something, like they were just destroying the glass. So then we just kind of switched it where we kind of make ourselves. It's not exactly what it's supposed to be, but it works well enough.
Nice. So what got you? What came first? Did you get the job at the zoo, or did you have an obsession with reptiles that got you to the job at the zoo?
So you want the whole story now?
Yeah.
So like as a kid, when I was a kid, I had some box turtles in the backyard at my mom's house. We had built a fence and I made a pen out there. And then my high school biology teacher had like a boa in there, a black rat snake, a rose tarantula, some other stuff in a tokay gecko. And I was pretty interested in it. And then one night we were watching David Letterman and he had somebody on that had a whole bunch of reptiles on there. And I was like, it's got to happen. And so, so I begged, and I don't know the time frame, but I ended up getting some leopard geckos. And then next thing you know, my room was like, I had like a hallway down the middle and I had built cages on either side and I had water dragons and iguanas. They wouldn't let me have any snakes. So I had water dragons, iguanas, bearded dragons at that point in time, leopard geckos. And then I worked at a pet store from when I was in high school through college, outside of college. And so I worked there and I became the manager of that. And it was a real quality pet store with a lot of we used to sell like 50 grand worth of reptiles a month, in supplies. And this is in the 90s. And so we just got in so much stuff and it was just an awesome experience. And I became manager of that as like a college student. And I graduated from college and I was going to go back and get a teaching degree was my plan. And then I had made friends with the guy that worked at the zoo in the herp department. And he came in and he was like, hey, we have a job opening. You really need to come apply. And I was like, I do. And he brought me an application and I filled it out and he turned it in for me. I got a job. And that was, what is now? We're in May. So that was January of 2000.
Wow.
I got that job. And so,
I went and got a century ago.
Yeah. It's crazy. Half my life I've been at that job.
Wow.
Or not actually more than half my life, but, yeah. And then I started working there and, maybe let me see if I can make you bigger. I started working there and then, I became an elephant keeper and I did that for like 12 years. And so I would help with the reptiles and did that. And at the same time, I just always had reptiles and I always had stuff, I just always had a collection of snakes. And then in 2012, they created positions where you could be a supervisor. And they were like, we're going to rebuild this reptile building. And I was like, that's what I want. Plus, I've been in a lot of different phases and now children and life, but I worked out a lot and I did a lot of at that point in time, I was I went to the gym 3 times a week. I was working out all the time, but man, shoveling elephant poop and carrying hay and carrying whatever else, I was broken. My back was always jacked up and I was always, and then I was I got to do something different because this is just beating me up. And so I got the reptile job and then I got to pick out a whole collection and pick out,
Jeez.
I get to build all the exhibits. I have a staff, but in the beginning I built all the exhibits more or less myself, other than we got the boxes and then I had a couple of people, but I did the majority of the construction with me and a volunteer. And it's just kind of gone from there, and so I don't know. It's been a pretty perfect, from a reptile standpoint, it's been a pretty perfect existence. I keep a lot of stuff personally. I keep a lot of stuff there. But it's really been a great ride as far as that kind of thing goes.
What is that pet store still there?
Unfortunately, that guy went out of business and he now has a fish store, but it was a company called Animal Jungle. And we used to actually go, I went to my first, the Orlando show in 95. And we had a thing called Jungle Herps was the company that we used to go for. Mm-hmm. And so we had a wholesale business in the reptile store itself. And so we would go to the shows and vend and we'd bring a box truck. We were Triple L before there was Triple L kind of thing. We had everything. We would bring all the Vitalites at that point in time because there was no other UV. We'd bring all the Vitalites, all the heat lamps. We'd bring pallets of tanks and bring them there. And it was so much work. It was so much work. But man, you would come out of I can remember I would set myself up with snakes or whatever else or with lights. And you would have so much cash, you couldn't fold it and put it in your pocket because we were just doing so much business. It was just crazy. And then the guy that ran that, he ended up going, do you know Rare Earth?
Oh,
that company?
Man, it sounds so familiar.
They replaced this guy, Joe Lewis, who invented alpha hydroxy. He had this company called Rare Earth. And so the guy, Greg, that I worked for at that pet store moved up there and worked for Joe Lewis and ran this. And it was like they got everything that was rare. Like the place was incredible. But they had every rare monitor. They had green tree pythons, Amazon basins. They had blood pythons, like when you didn't see any of that stuff. And so once he left, that's when Scott Crumbly, Chad Holker, and myself, we would just go to shows ourselves and we would do our own thing. And then it kind of evolved from there.
Wow. How long did you work at the pet store? How long were you a manager there?
I started working there in 92 or 93. And I worked there until like 2002.
Damn.
Because I overlapped for a little bit. So once I got the job at the zoo, they had this gig that I was like a consultant. So they would pay me to come in like once, twice a week and just make sure everything looked okay. And I would make lists and then I would teach classes on the weekends. It was actually a pretty good gig. And so I'd go and it was just, I think I made like $100 a week or something like that. And and if we did well in our goals, I would get a percentage of whatever that was. But it's like I'd go in for a couple hours here and there and I'd go teach a class, and it was just an awesome place. And I got to do a lot of cool stuff and meet a lot of great people through it. And just the experience was incredible with the stuff you got. Cause at that point in time, you'd be like, we had Indian pythons in there. We would get like the first time we ordered crocodile monitors, first time I'd ever seen them, they come in, they're like 6 feet long. You're like, holy crap. You just get all this stuff. We had scrub pythons. We had all of like the Candoya back in that time. Just like, that was when albino Burms and Burmese and retics were all coming in. And you learned how to deal with mean snakes because all those baby snakes were hell on wheels. They would light you up repeatedly. They're so much better now, it seems, but it was a great learning experience and got to see so much cool stuff. So it was cool.
Have we domesticated snakes in your opinion? I mean, having the time in that you've had and seeing, or are we starting down that path?
I definitely say a retic baby today is not a retic baby of 30 something years ago. You couldn't just go pick up a retic baby then. But there were no morphs at that time. So, and it seemed like the tiger stuff made the calmer snake. I don't know what it was about that morph, but man, we would get like first generation captive bred animals, or we'd get farm bred animals, and you couldn't reach in there without getting bit 2-3 times. Like they just were going to get you. And the Burmese were the same way. And so it seems like as you've done that more and more, and blood pythons and short tail pythons, I can remember getting my first Borneo. Man, that thing was like an accordion with teeth. It was just like, he was like a 4.5 foot striped, beautiful Borneo, but man, he was just hell on wheels. Now, if it was me today, I'd probably be able to deal with him better because I know how to handle him better, but they just were different. Yeah. So I would say, you don't see a whole lot of wild caught stuff like that or first generation wild caught stuff like that. So they're definitely calmer. Not everything. Like, I bred I bred wild caught scrub pythons. They were not calm. But the babies were. So, I think you definitely see a difference in I don't think it takes long for them to chill a little bit. They're not perfect, but I'm sure that'll come with time. Or will they ever be perfect? I don't know. Be perfect for what they are. I've done white lips a few times, and I've done captive breds, and I've done wild caughts, and that's a snake that I would love to do, but they're stressful. Because you can't walk in the room. Like I had them in here, and you can't walk by because they're just always trying to hit you. And so then I took them and put them like above my head. And so I put the cages so they were all like above all the racks. So they were like 5-6 feet off the ground, which was great. But then you can't see their water. You can't see, like, I can't pay attention to them like I would want to. And so it lost its luster pretty quick because it kind of ruined the experience. I would love to see those things come and chill, but there's such a quirky, stiff, reactive animal that I'm not sure. It might take a while for those.
Yeah, that's that's how I feel about the Timor pythons. I want those to chill out.
I have a pair of those at work, a big pair, and they can be good and they can not be. I had a pair at home and a pair there, and then I was like, I'm not getting pissed on in both places. I was like, I'll keep one pair or the other pair. I'm not keeping both. So,
and are those farm bred or wild caught?
They were zoo bred, the ones we.
Oh, okay. So are they F1?
They're big. They're probably they're 10 years old by now. I, for whatever reason, cannot get those. Like, I don't even get courtship out of them. I try. I've got them on some different cycles, trying some stuff with them. I'd love to make babies out of them because they are beautiful. But I don't seem to be doing the right thing. So I feel like it's going to happen eventually. That's why I always feel like nobody's really that much better at this than anybody else. You just have to be patient. It's all about just the things that I've done that were hard. I just didn't give up. So if you just don't give up, eventually it'll all work out.
Are those F1s or F2s that you have at the zoo there?
I'd have to look to see. I don't know that I've ever paid attention to their original. I know I want to say they were born in like Sedgwick County. So I think they were born, and I may be wrong about that, but I want to say they were born like in Kansas at the zoo there, but I'm not sure. I would imagine they're F1s, but again, I could go look. I don't know. I'd have to look them up on Zims to see. That's the good thing about a zoo thing. Is I can look up any information I want about the history or lineage of all that stuff. As long as you find the original import thing, you can find all of that stuff.
That's awesome. I have F1s from Ryan Young.
Yeah, and, I've seen and heard you say that. I like Ryan a lot, so he makes good stuff.
Yeah, they're beautiful animals. I'm just I'm so hopeful that if I can get them to reproduce, which I don't think I'll be able to, that they'll be nicer. They're actually very nice. They're very laid back. It's just the peeing on you. That would be nice if they stop peeing.
I find for the bigger ones, as long as they don't dangle, like as long as you have like two hands on them and can kind of support them somewhat, that they don't do it as much. It's whenever they have they can be out and you can do that and you take one hand off to do something. And as soon as they drop anywhere, it seems like they just unload. I don't know what it is about that, but that seems to be, for me, how it works.
We need Timor diapers.
Maybe. At least their urates aren't like Jamaican boas. I just listened to your JD interview this morning.
Okay.
And you guys were talking about like in Jamaican boas, and we breed them pretty regularly there. And I do think they're cool snakes, but their poop is like a bird with cement. Like it's like they just urate everywhere and it doesn't want to come up. It's just like, but I do find them to be cool. I like them, but they are just kind of like, after taking care of them, I'm kind of like, I could work with those at work. I don't need to take those home.
Yeah. Yeah. The Timors have become a snake that I'm very, very okay with not touching. They're great to look at. It's like, why put them through the stress? They don't like it. They're very easily stressed out. So, boy, I hope you can produce some from the zoo there. That would be cool.
Yeah, me too. Other people have done it. So there, and I know other people, and I don't know, we have a decent, the setup's not bad. They're in like a 4x3x4 with like big boulders and rocks, and they hang out underneath it and on top of it. And there's some branches. They mainly kind of hide like almost like in a cave in there. But I don't know. I've thought about
how big are they? Like how many feet?
I'd say probably 6 or 7.
They're pretty thick though.
They're probably like that big around.
Yeah, I remember you sending me the video. They're thick snakes.
Oh yeah. No, Oh no, I did send you. But yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they're big. They're one of those things I kind of always wonder about moving them somewhere, but then it's like, cause they've grown in there. But then I also worry about moving them because sometimes you throw things off if you don't, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like they could probably use a little bit more space, but they actually don't. They look pretty good in there and they move around pretty well. And it's 12 square feet of floor space with a lot of up and down stuff they can do. So I don't know. They haven't really made me go, I need to move you, but sometimes I think about it.
And they're cohabbed year round?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I have pulled. Actually, we have pulled the male for a little bit, trying that. So I probably could that might not be a bad idea. Maybe next fall I'll pull him and just see if that helps.
See if it sparks some interest.
Yeah, because I like to leave the girls there so they get comfortable. Like I don't want to upset the ladies if I can help it, and I'll bother the boys somewhere and put him. We just got a big shipment in of some new cages, so I'm gonna try and move some things around, and maybe I'll move him in one of those.
What size enclosures are they?
So I just did an animal plastics order for the zoo, and we got a whole bunch. We got some 6x3x2s. We got some 8x3x2s. We got some 4x2x4s, 3x2x4s, 3x2x2s, and I can divide them all. But I'm basically going to redo the whole backup area all in just white animal plastics cages with everything having LED lights and everything having lockable doors. Because we use those, we already have a stack of those we use for like some extra tree monitors and some extra, we use them for venomous too, because they have locks on them and it's just easy to kind of use like that. But so hopefully it'll just make it so I have a lot more options back there. And then we can kind of, and the way they're built, like we had them made so you can have shelves in them, but they make it so you can put a divider in the middle. So if you want to take the 6x3x2s and turn them into 2 3x3x2s, you can do that. Or, they make it so they can be pretty versatile. They're a pretty good quality cage. They're not a pretty good. They're a very good quality cage. They just take a long time to get to you, but I like them.
That's got to be awesome, being able to like go to work and be like, okay, let's see what I can build now for reptile enclosures.
Well, that's the cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the cool part too. Is we have bars cages, we have animal plastics cages, we have my reef cages, we have all kinds of, we have vision cages, we have whatever else. So you can try all the stuff out and see exoterras, so some stuff, and we can kind of move things around and see what you like. And some stuff does better in this, does better than that. We use a lot of like Rubbermaid tubs, so we can have stuff like in floor space. Like, if we have some beta lizards that are in like big 150-gallon Rubbermaid tubs, so we can just try different stuff to see what works. And then, we do a lot of stuff with concrete and foam, and which is pretty awesome. And I have a guy that works for me now that's just really good at it. And so he does a lot of that stuff and does a really good job. We actually have a volunteer lady that she retired from the Navy, and she has helped us do a lot of concrete work, and she's fantastic too. So it makes it nice. So usually what happens is I'll draw it and then I give it to them. And then I used to do it, and now I just let them do it.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of, I don't know. I have enough, like in honesty, there's enough on my plate that I don't need to do that. It's nice to go do sometimes, but I feel like I've done it enough that I'm like, you guys can do it here.
Yeah. So what are you doing? You're doing spray foam, or is it like the panels and you're carving them up and then doing concrete over it?
A little bit of all of it. So so one of the things that Mac, when he has started going to Tractor Supply, and they get stuff in with these, like, they're like 2x2 squares of foam. And so he's taken that and carving that. And we also use the 2-inch insulation foam, the rigid pink stuff.
Yeah.
So we use that, and we might like plan it out and make it out of that on the wall, and then attach that in somehow, and then put either like a fiberglass lathe over it or metal over it, and then use Portland cement and sand and mix it, and then put that on top. And then if there's gaps, we'll use spray foam to kind of fill in the gaps, and then just concrete over the whole thing. So you basically just make a shell out of it. And so, but you might go through and drill some holes in to put some rebar in, or put some screws in, or put something in, depending on whatever you're attaching it to. We can kind of go through and do that.
Damn, you guys need to put more of that up on social media.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you were to be friends with him, you probably could. But yeah, no, it's super cool. Every once in a while I go through phases where I'll do some stories and put it up there. I just haven't done that lately. I need to do that more. The only problem is sometimes you put stuff up and then we have a marketing team and they want to make sure they're the ones that put things up. And so I try not to step on any toes if I can help it. But
yeah, especially, so you are a municipality, you're part of the local government.
Yeah. So we work, so the animal staff, horticulture and maintenance is all run by the city. And then we have a nonprofit that runs like education, marketing, development, all that kind of thing. So it's like a hybrid organization. But yeah, I work for the city of Norfolk. So then the zoo is owned by the city of Norfolk, and then the society helps run all of that kind of stuff. So, and then we have like one guy that's over all of it, which actually that position's open right now. So they're interviewing for that position right now.
That's interesting. That's a lot of moving parts.
Yes, it is. And then I have a staff of 4, unless I have part-timers or something like that, but I have a staff of 4 that we just work down there. And then I work in the building in the morning with animals. Well, depending on the day, but typically I work in the morning down there. And then in the afternoon, I go to meetings or do computer work or try to acquire animals or whatever I have to do, or write stuff up or whatever I have to do for that.
So what does it look like when you guys get in cages? Do you get in cages with a specific like project in mind, or does it come in and you go, this thing could use a bigger cage? And then how do you go through the design process? Is it the 3 of you and the 2 other people you mentioned that kind of go through that together?
No, I mean, luckily if I want something, I just get it. So like I just have to put in for it. And so if I want something, like for this, we have all these baker's racks back there with all these different cages on them. And I just was like, I want to put in the budget that I want to change these out and put these in. And so then I bought $5,000 worth of new cages or whatever it is. Well, I guess I bought more than that, but like, so then I just kind of put it together and say, this is what I want. And then I just tell them, then we kind of get it back there and we get a game plan. And then I try to get everybody involved if I can. So I'll let the 4 of them know what my plan is, or like today, I'm like, hey, we're going to move these cages around. If you guys want to map this out on the floor and see if you like an idea better than what I said, then let's see if we like it or not. And if not, this is what we're doing. And in the next week, let's try to get this knocked out. And so we'll move some stuff around and get some things going. But if it's exhibits, like luckily I get to pick that out. So, when we redesigned the building, someone else said what they wanted the like general floor plan was like, and then I had to kind of go in and make it work. And then as far as each exhibit, I just design whatever each exhibit wants, and then I pick and choose. And then working for a zoo, there's all these regional collection plans for different taxa. So like AZA has a steering committee that tells you, here's a group of lizards and these are the ones that we're doing programs with, and this is what we would recommend you do. And they do the same thing with snakes, turtles, amphibians, and crocodiles. So you just I pick and choose as many of those as possible, and then I try to fill in the gaps. So, but yeah, and then like we built a whole bunch of exhibits originally and made them out of drywall. Like we have what do we have, 5 walk-in exhibits, maybe 6, 5. And we made them out of drywall and they just kind of fell apart. So we actually took all the drywall out and put hardy backer board up and then concreted over them and then made them all, just redid them. So even though the building was renovated in 2018, about 2 years ago, we kind of took most of it apart and rebuilt it again. Then we did most of that in-house. So
so how does it work? Like, let's say you want to breed the Timor pythons. Do you have to get like approval to breed them? And then what happens when you get babies?
Not today. As of the way the hierarchy works now, I can kind of do what I want. If it's a managed species, like if they were a AZA stud book or SSP, a species survival plan, then someone like I run the beaded lizard stud book. So like I'm in charge of all the Rio Fuerte and Mexican beaded lizards that are in all zoos in America. And so every so often we put a breeding and transfer plan together and say, we look at all the genetics of all those animals and say, we want to make 20 babies over the next 3 years. So you'll tell who has those best pairings or move animals around. Be like, you have the best female for the male over here, and then we'll swap those around. And then say, if you get 20 eggs, we only need 5 out of that. So can you just hatch 5? And then we'll get somebody else to do this, and we'll do, and we'll kind of go from there. And then it works that way for like those programs. If it's just like Timor pythons where there's no program, I could just breed them if I want to. Okay. And then, but what I would do is I would say, I would put it out on the listserv and say, hey, who wants babies if we make them? And then I would probably incubate the amount of animals plus a few to do that. I don't know. Everybody always talks about like the reptile community, like policing itself, and zoos, that's just what they do. You try not to make a whole bunch of stuff that's just going to sit around, or you're going to have to send it out. Because the problem with sending stuff out, and we do it, but like say you wanted some and I wanted to send some to you, like you'd have to become a vendor, you'd have to be inspected, and then like, would you fill out all the paperwork, and would you reply later on and say you got rid of them and I wanted to find out where they went? Would you be willing to do that? And people just say they want to do that, but then they never follow through. So it makes it very hard. The way these organizations are going is everybody's trying to make sure that everything is legitimate. The animals have the best chance of a good quality of life wherever they go, and they're not just going to be made just to be made. So you try to plan that out and see where things are going to go and what they're going to do, and make sure you're not making stuff just to make stuff. You make it for a purpose.
So if you got, let's say you got 8 Timor eggs,
right,
and you got 4 takers for them, or let's say 2 takers, they each want a pair. Do you freeze the other eggs? That
would be up to me. So I could, or I could just have them and then see what happens over the next few years. So I could, I could freeze some eggs, or I could just hatch them all and see what happens. It would just depend on my space. Like if I had the space and it was something like, to me, like a Timor python, I probably would not freeze anything. I would probably do them all just because there's not a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
So if it was like retics, like if we breed retics every once in a while. Like if I had 42 eggs, I'd ask around and be like, who wants retic? Because I don't need to make 40.
Yeah.
Especially 40 normals. Like, what am I going to, like, the world doesn't really need retics. And having been somebody that's taken care of big reticulated pythons, like everyone doesn't really need that snake. And, and they just don't need to be out there. So we would put it out there and be like, and we've done this, and say 6 people are like, hey, we want a retic. We might incubate 8. And then we would cull the other eggs. And then because that way we have a couple extra if we want to have a couple extra. But like, that's a lot of resources. And people also, like a zoo wants a big retic. They don't want a baby. So like, unless I'm going to build cages that are just to raise up retics, then it's just not, plus they're just not a cage. Like our retic exhibit's like 15 by 15 by 8, so it's like, it's just not a freedom breeder snake or a vision cage snake. It's, it's just not at least not for the long run, for a while you could probably make it work out, but they are just different than other stuff. They just use a lot of space, and they're kind of pushy. Like they don't really want you to touch them. They're kind of like, they kind of bump you and do whatever else. So like we just make those to order, make whatever we need to. But that's kind of how we do a lot of stuff, is like, if somebody really wants something and they ask for it, then we'll make it for them.
And how often do babies go out to private collections? Like how does that work from it going from zoo to private?
Not that often. We have to put it, so if I were to have something, it has to go out to other zoos first. And then if they don't want it, and it was something and it's something that could go out to a private collection, then you have to go through that whole rigmarole. And if you ask anybody that's ever done it with us, it's like, some people are like, this is too much. It's not worth it. They're like, it seemed like a great idea, but it's really not that great of an idea. Once every few years, maybe, maybe it happens, but it doesn't happen very often. And even just acquiring animals, say you had something that I wanted to get, like by the time it's done, it'll be like you trying to get me on this podcast is what it'll be like. It's just going to be like,
that's impossible.
I know. Well, that's everybody that whenever they're done, everybody's always like, that was the hardest sale I ever had in my life. And it's like, just, there's too many moving parts. It's just too hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we should say it was about a year ago that Ron St. Pierre told me to get you on.
Right. And, that's what I told my wife the other day when we were talking about it. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be on this podcast. And she's like, when are you doing that? We have this going on. And I'm like, I'm like, babe, I think he was on episode 3 when he asked me to be on, and I think he's on like 55 now. Just so you know,
it's episode 67.
Right? Sound like, just so you know, like this is like, yeah. So yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
Like, yeah, if it's 8 or after, it's easy. If it's like during the day, because I also work weekends, so like,
oh wow,
so I work every Saturday, and then Sunday is like a family day, and so those days are just tough.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I didn't make it easy because I like recording early. I like being caffeinated and fresh.
Right.
You know. So it's but we made it work. We're here.
Yeah, we're here. But it's also, but I would say also like it's crazy as far as having a collection at home. Like that's what everybody's like, how do you, but it's so nice to have a collection at home that I don't have all those rules, and that's why like I keep a lot of different things. I keep the stuff the way that I like it. My wife always says, she's like, you go through cages more than people go through underwear. Like I'm always like evolving how I have my setups, and like I've had every brand of cages or switch. I've gone to different racks and then back to cages and then back to racks and then back to cages, or like a combination thereof. And just like really just finding, that's the good thing, is I can try all this stuff out at work, and then I can try all this stuff out at home. And then I can really figure out what works for me and what works for the animal, and kind of go and pick out what works best. And I've been pretty successful both at work and at home with that. And so it's been a really good system for me. I would say I don't sleep a whole lot. Like I get up at 6 and like I fed snakes last night. I think I went to bed at like 12:45 or 1. And I get up at 6 and I go to work, and then, I get home and play with my kids and do whatever else. And then when they all go to bed, my wife goes to bed at 9 or 10, then I might come back here and work for a couple hours, and then I go to bed after that. So
that's too much. You need sleep.
Yeah. Well, I could use a little more sleep, but it's like that's what shows. Like I get lost, and like I'll come back here and it's like, well, that was cool. Like I'll go, I'm going to water my blood and short-tailed python stuff. And then next thing you know, it's like an hour and a half later, and I'm like, what have I been doing for the last hour and a half? I've been like rehydrating Substrate and changing all their waters, and like I'll pick them up, move them around, and just like check them all out, because I've switched all them to ARS racks, and now they're like in either the 4-foot racks or they might be bigger, the biggest racks, or like the ones that are side by side. And like I do these mixtures of bedding in there, so they're kind of underground. Like they basically, like all you'll see is like a little part of their body up. And so like I'll dig them out and check them out and whatever else. It's the best setup I ever had for them. I've tried a lot, and that's, as far as blood and short tails go, like that's they do very well like that. Yeah, so it's like I just kind of get lost in it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Although, how many snakes do you have in your private collection? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. So some of those are empty. I would say probably, well, if you count babies, I would say probably in the 120, 130 range.
Okay. That's not, that's, compared to Owen McIntyre, that's not that bad.
I mean, shoot, I'm looking around. So I've got 50, 90, and what is that? 106. Yeah, I would say probably in the like 130 range.
Wow.
Something like that.
Do you still have the Macs?
Yes, I have 2 pair of Maclots. Nice. And I've got 1 pair of babies here still.
I'm sure. I need to get a building, because I'm in my office right now, and I already expanded into our dining room. So I need a building now.
Oh, you're in the dining. See, I haven't moved out of this room, but I have the biggest room in the house, so that's when I figured out I had to like make it lucrative. It used to be I would make as many babies as I could and go to a show and try to come back with just something new and spend all of the money I made and whatever else. And then I was like, well, now I have kids and I have like the biggest room in the house. Like I've got to make this thing work. It's got to work. So then I started, paying more attention to taxes and all that other stuff and trying to be legit.
So you mentioned it's nice to not have the rules of the zoo. Are there actual like rules and regulations that need to be followed, like legally, like actual laws as far as animal care?
Well, I mean, you have AZA, so like you have AZA that comes in and inspects you, and they look at how your quality of care is, and then you have vets. So like having vets and vet techs, they're critical of weights and whatever, and so they are the part that, like the way, like I might fast things for a few months, like they would probably not be okay with that if there was a drop in weight or drop in whatever else. Like they would, like having the vets makes it so there's a lot more oversight, and so if they listen to this, they're probably mad at me. But like it just makes it so I can kind of do it how I think it's right, not so much how is like perceived right.
Yeah.
I always say, like, if somebody asks you what a snake weighs, or what are they? There's a couple, like if somebody asks you what a snake weighs, or they ask you a couple other questions, and I'm like, you realize that they don't really know exactly what they're doing. Like if you look at it and you can tell, like people ask those specific questions when they're not sure. They're looking for some metric to go, this is exactly right. This is the trend. And I realize there's trends and realize there's whatever else, but I'm like, if you're looking at this stuff and paying attention, you should be able to look at it and tell if everything's okay. You know, and so, I have a thing in my head that I usually say, and I just lost it. See what's happened. This is what happens. But yeah. So, but it is like the more specific questions. I always say, like if somebody asks me, they're like, "Can you cohab those?" And I'm like, if you ask if you can, then you shouldn't. But if you're confident enough in paying attention and doing whatever else, then I think it's possible. But you know, if you're not confident in it, you're not paying attention to the behavior and how they feed and how they move and are they sitting in the same, you know, then you probably should wait. You know, it's just not, it's probably not the right option.
Interesting. So in your opinion, could anything be cohabbed with the appropriate keeper?
I mean, I cohab a lot of stuff. I don't do it as much here. I do it with Amazon tree boas here, and I do it for part of the year. I'll have Borneos live together for half a year, or Bloods and Short Tails will live together for half a year, and I'll feed them together. I do it with my olives too, and I do it with, like, for when I'm breeding stuff, I'll put them together and leave them together for a few months. I mean, obviously, I don't do it I have Hondurans and black milks together right now, and they've been together for a few weeks.
You have black milk snakes?
Yeah,
dude. Those are like that's the colubrid I want.
They're awesome. Yeah. I bought a pair from from Craig Schonbauer last year that came from Jordan Perrette. And then I bought another female in Tinley this past year too. Yeah, it's a cool snake. You know, I have some other, I don't know, I've been on a milk snake kick, and I have some really nice sockhead Pueblans that are just super cool. Like I've kind of been, I don't know. That's my problem, is I like too many things and I kind of go around. But, yeah. Oh, I lost my track of whatever I was even talking about with that. But
that's okay. I totally derailed you.
Yeah.
We were talking about cohabbing snakes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we do a lot of it at work. Like I have Amazon basin emeralds together with annulated boas, with dart frogs, and they all live together. And we've never had, I should knock on wood, but I mean, what are we, 7 years together with never an issue. We have had teamer pythons where like you're feeding and they get in that mode and they like wrap each other up. So that's why we'll separate them for a while. But it's like they go through that they just go through, I think it's probably when follicles are coming, but it's like some of the stuff will go through like a super hyper phase where they're just want to eat everything. And so like if you see that coming, then it's okay to separate them. We do that with Jamaican boas too. Like our Jamaican boas breed pretty regularly, but so we'll keep them together and then pull them apart. But here I do it with, like, I would say stuff's together for like half the year and then not together for maybe not half, a third of the year, quarter of a year. Like I've got a few pair of Amazons that I just have together just because I'm like, they're on the verge of being in the right size. And if they breed, they breed. If they don't, they don't, but they're fine. Like as that goes. I've also found, like, I know everybody always wants to wait and whatever else. And I've found having vets that there's been animals that we had follicular stasis in that I thought were too small, that had follicles grow and ended up having problems and ended up passing away. And had they bred, they probably wouldn't have passed away.
Really?
Yeah. So they, because a lot of these animals breed way younger than you think they do. And if they can, they will. If they can't, they really won't. and so I have changed a lot of how I do. Like I'll put stuff together that's like on to be like, oh, I'm not sure about them, but like, yeah, and if they don't go, they don't go. Like I'm not going to push them, but like I'll feed them a little heavier and see if it happens. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
My female Timor is obsessed with food. Is that just normal for Timors, or?
I think they're a hungry snake.
Yeah.
They are just a hungry snake, which you have to be careful with some of that stuff too. Cause they are hungry because they probably are made. Well, I think we condition them to be that way too, but they're also hungry because whenever food's available, they have to eat it all. And then it's not available for months or whatever at a time. So, I'm a firm believer in getting things like the Keith McPeak always says, the rhythm of the room. But like, if you were to get things going and you kind of get a cycle and get things, I think it really helps if they're big. Like I wouldn't do it with a baby, but like if you have a 2-year-old animal that has decent size and you want to feed it heavy for a while, like I do fairly heavy spring and fall feedings and then virtually no feedings in the winter and sparing feedings in the summer. But if you got them like on that schedule, then I don't think it's a bad thing to get them started that way. It does make it like if you have like for my olive, but for like my olives, I won't feed them for a few months. Like you better be careful when you go in there though, because they're ready.
Oh yeah.
They just, but they let you know. But also, you're kind of creating that time. So I try to make it so it's just realize what's going to happen.
I almost got tagged by my female Timor last night. I went in and picked up some urates once the lights were off, and I didn't even see her coiled up in the branches. And dude, the reach on her, she was at the back of the cage and she came probably 6 inches out the front of a 2-foot enclosure and was still holding on to the branch, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Especially like at that night. Yeah. Nighttime is a different time. Wait if you ever do scrubs. And like, if you have, I know I had southern scrubs and like they move and like glide into place. It's kind of crazy. Like they'll be on a perch and then all of a sudden it's like they moved 4 feet and you're like, what just happened? It just like they glide and all of a sudden like their face is right here and you're like, holy hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm in Florida. So the only scrub I'll probably ever get is Halms.
That's a good one to get.
That's what I want. Yeah. I'm kind of going.
I kind of want some Nata. I wanted some tan bars, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they're beautiful, but man, the pattern on the Halms is
no. I would agree. I like them. I like them a lot, and I liked. And again, you're in Florida, but I liked having the Southerns. They were super cool. I got a wild caught pair that were adults. I only bred them once, but it took like 6 years to like acclimate them.
Wow.
But then I finally got some babies out of them, so it was cool. They were neat. They were one of those snakes that like I thought I wasn't going to want. And then once I had them, I was like, they're just interesting. And they watch you as you come in. Like they're definitely like thinking but they're not for the faint of heart as far as like some of those things. Cause they definitely they're agile and strong. And like, if they're holding on to something, I think maybe Stephen Cush, one of those, like they stopped using perches in a lot of them because when they hold on, you can never get them off. Like they're just so strong so they started using like shelves and having them sit on shelves. And I've actually gone to a lot because I used to have my Maclots in cages with branches. And like, if they're all in the branches, you're trying to get them off. And they don't want to get off. Like they just aren't coming, or you're going to have, or it's like too much of a fight. So I have it so they can sit on stuff, but not so much grab on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like if one of my boas goes up into branches, forget about it. Like that thing is never coming out. It's not happening.
Yeah. Which is kind of like that's what you're supposed to do. But then like I have a lot of snakes now. I want to go through and I want to do whatever. And if you take an extra half hour, then I missed whatever else it is that I'm doing, and it's not like it's a positive react. Like those things are never like easy, positive things. You're like moving around there. And then if they're bothered, they're peeing all over you or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. I recently got to actually hold a baby U.S. captive born and bred Halm that belongs to Dr. Stephen Tillis. And that was incredible. That was my tide turning moment where I was like, yeah, I definitely need these at some point in my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about a scrub python. Scrub pythons are supreme predators. You know, they're strong, agile, cool. Like they're a neat snake.
Yeah. Do you have any cobras at the zoo?
We have one king cobra.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about it.
We have a Chinese king cobra.
How big is it?
I'd say probably like 8 feet, 9 feet, 8, 9 feet.
That's bananas.
So we had a Malaysian female that was bigger and she was awesome. We sent her to the Bronx and she had babies up there. Actually, I think she's had babies twice up there. So that's one of those things, like I was saying before, is we had her and then they were like, and the exhibit we have really isn't big enough for a male. It's a 9x3x4. And so we just have decided we'll just have a female. And then like they had a big male and they were like, hey, we need her to breed. So we sent them that female. And then they were like, hey, we have this other female that needs to go somewhere else. So we kind of will keep them for a while, or I mean, maybe forever, who knows. And if somebody wants to breed it, then we'll kind of get it up to size, get it good. And then if somebody needs it, we'll send it to them.
Wow. Working with the venomous, I mean, I'm assuming you've been working with venomous snakes there for most of your career.
Yeah, like before 2018, all we had were local. So before that, we just had copperheads, cottonmouths, and canebrake rattlesnakes. And now we have a plethora. We have like 5 species of rattlesnakes. We have rhino vipers. We have Ethiopian mountain adders, king cobra, eyelash vipers.
Wow.
That may be it. But yeah, so we have a collection of stuff that's there. So yeah, I mean, it's part of the collection. It's cool. It's neat. It's not something I would ever want to do at home.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, plus I have to buy antivenom, like, which is crazy expensive and hard. Like I have a USDA permit. I have to have a permit that's mine. And then I have to get, and I mean, shoot, I just bought stuff for the Bitis. So for the rhino viper and Ethiopian mountain adder, I mean, it's good for 3 years and it costs like $8,500.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to order it through a company. It comes out of Spain, that comes out of Mexico, and then you get it. And I mean, and basically, yeah. So it's like, if you're going to have antivenom, which you should, I mean, it's not cheap and it doesn't last forever. So it's like, all that stuff you're getting is like, I think the stuff for the eyelash vipers, the anti-vitmin, I want to say that was like that might've been $10,000.
Wow.
You know, and you get like 3 years out of it.
That's stupid expensive.
Yeah. So we keep the expired in case someone were to have a accident around and we could help that way. We won't give them any of the current, but we would give them the expired, which should work the same. But the problem is like, if I were to say you were to get bit and I was to give you our current, it could take me 5 months to get that replaced. You know, so it's not really worth risking the lives of everybody that works there that's doing it the right way when we can give you the other stuff, and it'll work. The efficacy still seems to be fine, but we try to make it so we take care of the people that are there first. Yeah,
as you should. I recently herped the Everglades, and we saw. I'm probably going to get this wrong. I can't remember now. I think we saw 6 cottonmouths total, 5 dead on the side of the road.
5 of 6 were dead.
Yeah, unfortunately. Ouch. That was road cruising. We saw one live one right when the sun was going down, and it was right on the shoulder of the road. And so we hooked it and took it off. And that was such a cool little snake.
Yeah, I like copper. I like all of the stuff like that. We had canteals and stuff. Like, all that stuff is cool. All those at Kistrodon are cool.
Yeah, they're so neat. How do you guys take care of cottonmouths in captivity?
We have an exhibit where we found that they don't really go in the water that much. So we have an exhibit with like pine trees in it, some branches, a leaf littery mulch, pine straw base with a decent sized water bowl in it. And then we just offer food every couple weeks.
Nice. And are they are they being in a captive setting? Are they always keyed up, and do they always do their threat display, or have they mellowed out?
Hardly ever does a threat display. Like hardly ever.
Really?
It's one of the snakes I train people on. So it's pretty, like we have it's a female. It's been there for 15 years. She's a bigger, older female. So she's heavy.
Oh, wow.
But no, she's pretty easy to deal with.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was kind of adorable, cause like that was my first time actually dealing with one. I'd never seen one. I've grown up in Florida. I'd never seen one before.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And just the little, it was adorable. Just, you could tell that it was like terrified, and it's trying to be as threatening as possible. It's nothing like, what I thought it was going to be, it wasn't, I don't think it struck at us. It was just all threat display.
Yeah, most of that stuff really doesn't want to strike at you. Well, not most of it, but like if you're not in its bubble, it doesn't want anything to do with you. It just wants you to leave it alone. So I have to ask you, did you find any berms while you were down there?
Nope, and that's the whole reason we went.
Ouch.
Yeah, we drove 740 miles and saw 0 berms.
Damn, that sucks.
Dude, we went out to this stormwater like containment area. It's like a stormwater area. There's all sorts of drainage system everywhere. And we thought like, oh man, this looks great on paper. And we got out there, and the vastness of it suddenly occurred to me, and I just said it out loud. I'm like, this is like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's like looking for a piece of straw in a haystack. Right. Like it was just so vast, as far as you could see, just marsh and grass. And so
your best bet is just a road cruise like in the morning and evening and hope for the best.
Yeah. And that's what we did. Unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of time. We had 2 nights that we were able to road cruise. So we did get to see a crocodile. Nice. I believe she was laying eggs on the side of the road. That was kind of contested, but there was dirt all kicked out behind her. Right. And she was laying on top of a hole and straining. So I'm assuming she was laying eggs, or right. she dug a hole to poop into.
Yeah, I doubt that. That's cool. That's a cool experience though.
Oh man, it was incredible.
I don't know. I would like to, if I were to go down there, I'd be bummed if I didn't catch a berm. But if you saw a crocodile on the side of the road, that's pretty, that's almost as good or better.
Yeah, I think that since that was a native crocodile and it was my first time ever seeing a crocodile in Florida, I'm going to count that as being better. Like it made the night for sure.
Well, snakes are awesome, but crocodilians are like really awesome. Just like smart dinosaurs, they're an awesome, incredible animal. Learn faster than a lot of mammals. Like it's crazy to train a crocodile and how quickly they learn things and do things. And
really,
it's a pretty amazing animal.
Yeah. I get to see alligators all the time at work, and the crocodiles in comparison are just, they're diabolical looking, they right. just look like so cruel and, they're just so different.
Yeah. It's that medulla oblongata,
Yeah. Yeah, they are wild creatures. So with the venomous and everything, or even just anything, crocodilians, snakes, have in your time and your experience working at the zoo, have you had any close calls or had to respond to any close calls involving reptiles?
No, we're pretty safe with everything that goes on there, and so it's all. We try to do everything as best we can to make it so everything goes well.
That's awesome. That's incredible with that. Accidents happen, but that's awesome that you guys can control the environment that efficiently to keep it.
Yeah, the crocodile we have, you could be within like a foot of her, and we do training with her, and she'll come up and touch target and move around where you want her to, and so we can be pretty close and do everything. But not every animal is like that, and if we had a male, it may be different. But we have a female Siamese crocodile, and she's very receptive to kind of letting you do almost anything. Like other than we're not reaching in there like petting her, but like we can get her to move wherever we want. We can get her to come out on land. We can get her to shift. We can do a lot of things with her.
What about what about the monitors? Are they, do you guys implement target training with multiple species?
We do, but we have found that the more target training we do with like crocodile monitors, the more food crazy they get. So we may actually be, I just went to a conference and talked to somebody did a presentation on Komodo stuff where they actually did all their training without food. So they didn't let them they never let them see food come from them. And we just have had, I know Crutchfield does all of that, whatever, with his hand feeding, but we've just found that you become the target and the monitors like want to come be on you. And it's just there's too much of a risk for it. So we're actually in the process of kind of changing that a little bit. But I mean, we have a good collection of monitors. We have Parentes, we have croc monitors, we have Savannah monitor, we have blue, yellow, green, black tree monitors. That might be it. But
what does the feeding schedule look like for monitors? How are they fed every other day?
For tree monitors, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, all insects, and then once a month they get pinkies or fuzzies. Parentes, it's 2 days a week they get roaches, and 1 day a week they get either quail or rats or mice. Croc monitor gets rodents twice a week. Actually, right now we're doing 3 times a week. We took the 2 time a week amount and spread it out to 3 times a week so we could do more interaction stuff with them.
Okay.
So, but we try to do like the stuff that'll eat rodents. We try to do more, but the things I would say the things that eat insects, we try to do more insect feedings than we do rodent feedings. So if we have 3 feedings a week, we'll do 2 of those will be insect feedings. 1 of those will be a rodent feeding.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to get a black dragon at some point. So I've been trying to think of how I would work that with a feeding schedule. And
yeah, I think water monitors are so much calmer than a lot of the other stuff. So I think you could probably do a lot more. There's just croc monitors are so reactive. And I know you see the whatever where people have them, they're chill, like, but man, they just, when they turn it on, they just turn it on, and they're so fast and agile, and just the room for error is slim and just not worth the risk to me.
As a pet?
Well, I don't. Yeah, that's another one of those things. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a percentage of people that can do it well, but like, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you feed them and you see what those teeth are like it's. I had a keeper get bit by one, and they said when he went to the doctor, they were like, "It looks like someone scooped out your flesh."
Whoa. There's the close call story I wanted.
Yeah, and he only had he luckily only had he had walked out after a target training thing and took a glove off, and it just grabbed his arm real quick, but it was just 3 teeth luckily. But basically just like 3 teeth like scooped up his flesh.
Oh man.
It's not crazy. That's why we're going to adjust. But
wow. That is gnarly. And how big is that animal? Is that a full-grown adult?
It's a big male. Yeah, it's a big male.
Wow.
He's 7 feet or better, probably.
Whew. Do you think like regular people should have those as pets?
I'm not I don't love the banning idea, but definitely not. Like there should be like I would like
there should be some thought behind it.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not for banning anything. I think there's a permit system. If you want to do a permit system, you want to do whatever else, I think that's fine. But I think we should never ban anything. But I think people should realize their limitations, and there are a lot of great options for animals to have, and a croc monitor is not at the top of that list. It just is, and again, it could go. We have a female that you could probably take out and put on your shoulder and walk around. We don't do that, but we use gloves and we take her out. But we let her, like, we'll bring her in and do like tours and whatever else and have her out, and she's fine. But we But the one day it doesn't go right, it's a life-changing event potentially. Not that couldn't happen with your dog or your neighbor or your car or whatever else, but like, it's just like, if you really look at the dentition of one of those things while they're eating, it's kind of scary. Like they're like real life Dracula, just with a whole bunch of fangs. Like, it's just like it's crazy what's in their mouth,
Yeah.
And there's so many better options for, a water monitor. If you live in it, like, that's a lot of lizard too, and we've had some big black throats too, like, but there's a lot of options that are better. White throats and black throats, I'd say we had a white throat monitor that was the most personable. Like, it's a big lizard, but not humongous. Like, there's just better options.
Yeah.
And if you get to the point where you're great with all those things and you want to move on, then fine. But it's just not for, I don't know. I would just say that there's just better options to make it so you have a better success story. And it doesn't, you don't hear of people getting bit all the time. So people are obviously doing things well, but for the times that it doesn't go well, it's just best, I think, to try different things.
What do you have you guys had Komodos at the zoo?
Unfortunately not. I would like to get some. I just have to convince somebody to let me take over a space and build an exhibit and whatever else. And so, but we had, like, I just built 2 exhibits. I just took over like an old sloth exhibit and an old monkey exhibit and put a pair of parenti in there. Which in all honesty is, they don't get quite as big, but I'm as excited or more for that as I would be to the other, because it's just an incredible animal.
Yeah.
Like, especially the female we have, like, it's almost like somebody used pastels to draw her pattern on her. It's just a beautiful lizard. And there's less of the, like, if you think about it, there's less of those here than there are Komodos. So, like, as far as rarity goes, but if you told me I could build a Komodo exhibit tomorrow, I would be all in, and I would do whatever I'd work extra, whatever I had to do it. So I don't want to discount that at all, but I'd be all for it if I could. And hopefully, I've been persistent for a long time to get a lot of things. So hopefully one of these days I'll convince somebody to make that happen.
Yeah. We went to the Tampa Lowry Park Zoo, and they had baby Komodos there and an adult laying out, and man, it was they're such incredible animals. They seem really calm and laid back.
Yeah, it seems like for the most part they can be, and then they can, and when they're not, they're not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should get one. That'd be cool.
It's on my list.
Yeah. So you mentioned the banning of animals. I'm in a state where all sorts of stuff is banned. What do you think that we can do as keepers? Like, do you think that we should try to do more self-policing within the hobby to avoid potential bans?
I think that'd be great, but who's to say who's right and who's wrong? Obviously people can say that. I think people should make better decisions on themselves. My thing, as far as the bans go, is I'm sure in Florida there are plenty of people that have the things that are banned. I'm sure of it. They just don't tell anybody. Whereas if they permit it, at least they'd know where they are. And not to say that all those people would get a permit. I think self-policing is a great idea, but I don't know that that's a possible. Like, how are you going to do that? Obviously, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's not feasible for a lot of things. So, if you're a seller and you want to be picky about who you sell things to, which is great. But then if you're trying to make a living doing this, that makes it kind of hard, and depending on what you're, whatever it is you're doing, so I don't know. I don't know how you do. I don't know. I like the idea, but I don't know how do you make it work.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost like if you have the option of a ban from the government or legislation and policing that way, who's even enforcing it? It's like,
yeah.
Well, it's
like the only thing I would say, the only thing that would work for me is like, say that Jeff Leibowitz guy, like he got bit by the taipan. He's putting videos out. He wants to get more stuff. He wants to create a coalition or whatever it is. Like, I would never want to be the guy that sold him a snake, because can you imagine if someone found out that you were the guy that sold him a snake? Like, that's how I look at it. Is like, say you were the guy that sold him his next taipan, and then he gets bit again, and then he ruins the laws in your state, or which, I mean, it depends on how you feel about that. I mean, how do you feel about, having taipans or cobras in your neighborhood? And what if somebody has a fire, or somebody breaks in, or something happens, or a natural disaster, or whatever else? Like, should people know that stuff is there? Probably, but I don't really nobody really knows what I have in here. But I also like something like a cobra or a taipan or a rhino viper or a gaboon or a mamba. Like, if you were to be the one selling that to somebody else, like, that's a little bit more of a responsibility than selling a ball python or a Macklot's python or a spotted python or a corn snake. Those if something goes wrong, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. You could affect someone's family or life if you do something wrong the other way.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, it's kind of because I get bummed out that, oh man, if I wanted to get a blue Insularis, right, I'd have to, I think, log like 500 or 800 hours, something like that with Vipers.
I thought it was 1,000. Isn't it 1,000 hours down there?
It might be, yeah, it might be.
Which is tough. Like, that's a lot of hours. I mean,
it is.
But also, I'd say that who's checking and how are they checking? Like, all these record stuff, like, the more that you look at these things, like, you could fudge that. Is that the right answer? No. But I mean, I don't know how they're checking to see what you're doing. Yeah,
I guess it would just have to be another person willing to risk their own permit. Yeah. Right.
Because like, if you went somewhere and you're like, oh, I went there for a half hour, but I really was there for 5 hours, or you were hanging out, you had lunch together and you logged all that time, but, and I think an Insularis is a lot different than a Cobra, so I don't know that I would say those are in the same bracket to me.
Yeah.
But I would also say that if you were to do that, which I don't know what the antivenom coverage would be for like that, but like, I think that's one of those things that, if you were to do that, I think you should take it on. It needs to be your responsibility unless you're willing to die.
Yeah.
To find out where your nearest antivenom is and what you could do, like what protocols you could put in place to make it so you know how to deal with that if something were to happen.
Yeah.
I think people that's where I see is like, and again, a lot of zoos aren't going to want to deal with that, and a lot of private places aren't going to deal with that. But like, I think if the communities, like if everybody worked together and made it so it was kind of more of a, hey, I have this is what I'm looking for. How can I help you? Could you help me? Whatever else. I feel like things would go better if things like that happened, rather than like, there was one night I was out with some friends. It's 12 o'clock. I never go out. And I went and met some friends to watch a band. And 12 o'clock, I get a phone call. And they're like, somebody just got bit by, what was it? Some tree viper in Richmond, which is 2 hours away from here. And they're like, we may need antivenom from your zoo. And I'm like, dude, I'm like 3.5 beers in. It's midnight. I'm like, can I call you back in like 15 minutes? And they're like, well, this happened. And I'm like, I know, but I'm not like I need to collect myself to like have a real conversation with you.
Yeah.
And so like, not that I want anything bad to happen anyway, but like I had to go outside, get in my car, get my crap together, call them back and be like, what do you need? If you did this, you're coming to me. I've got to get antivenom. I've got to do this for you. Like, it's just kind of one of those things that would be, I don't want to say I'm inconveniencing somebody, but like, say I had 7 beers, say I was not able to comprehend what was happening.
Yeah.
I'm past that point in my life, but like, you know, but like, you know, I mean, you're relying on me to do that, and it's my night that I finally go out with some friends.
Yeah.
You know, so like I kind of feel like people should take there needs to be a way to have responsibility and do those things better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just, you know, you saying that though about neighbors, like what if I did have a neighbor with a cobra? Like that kind of does make me feel better that there are the laws in place here. But then at the same time, like what if they're just doing, you know, cowboying it and they acquired the animal illegally, and then it might be
That's
worse.
what's going to happen. You know, that's what people are going to do. There's probably more of that than there are people doing it legally. I mean, what in Florida that guy let that cobra out like in his garage and it was gone for like a couple weeks?
That's terrifying.
Or was that South Carolina? One of those places. I mean, it's just, you know, life's going to happen. You know, I mean, it's the same stuff that can happen with the corn snake could happen with the cobra. You know, I mean,
yeah. I pretty much decided I'm not allowed to have venomous the other day when I forgot to close my Timor's cage. And
I don't think it's bad. I would say I think that's a good choice. I mean, it's a good choice, you know, just because life, especially, you know, you have kids, you have a wife, you have whatever, you know, you're in there, it's not like you're turning off life around you. Things are happening. You've got to, like, you're not focused all the way. You might say you are, but you know, you're home. Your mom stops by, your brother stops by, whatever, you know, like, oh, let me put this away. You didn't do it all the way. And then next thing you know, something's bad. Does it make you a bad person? You're not a bad person. You're just a person, you know, life just happens. The way we do it, you have two people for everything. So like if I were to screw up, someone else is there to watch and they're to be like, hey, you didn't do that. Fix that.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, if I get the water monitor, I want to keep it in an outdoor enclosure, and it's going to be one monitor. You know, I'm not going to have multiples. So, you know, and I'll make sure, because my biggest fear is that it would get out and somebody would kill it, you know, so that I would have to make sure that I understand, you know, I do understand that, but I would have to make sure that I have securities in place.
Yeah, and that's where you have like the people like Ron. Like Ron has a certain mesh that he uses. I think it's vinyl coated. He has a certain, like, there's a certain gauge they use. Like, you know, I'm sure he's made the mistake to figure out what it is. I don't know if he has or not, but I'm sure he's made the mistake to figure out what the right thing is, or he did it overkill to make sure he never has that problem. Yeah. But you know, that's where you have to rely on those other people and have those good relationships to be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Set me up for success. What's the best way? And I would say, for me, anything you do should have double containment. So like any door you have to go in, have it so you make a vestibule of some sort that you go in one door, close that behind you, and then go in the next door. And that way, and I mean, that's all a pain in the neck, but make it so that way you have checks and balances in place. So you do forget a door, you probably aren't going to forget two. You might forget one, but you're probably not going to forget two. And then,
especially if you have it spring loaded or something to close behind you, you know? Yeah. I can't wait to go visit Ron. I want to go there and just look at all of his enclosure construction and all that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all fairly simple, and it's, you know, but I don't know, to me, like I went down there, I've been there a few times, but we went there. My daughter's in cheer, and so she has a cheer thing in Orlando around the first of the year. So I brought my son over there and we just sat on his back porch. I don't know. I think Heather and I talked for probably like 3.5 hours just sitting on the back porch. My son was playing on my phone, and it was just like, I don't know. I texted him the next day and I was like, I feel like I could still be sitting on that porch just because he's such a good dude. Yes. And it's just like, we just bounce stuff off each other and just get along. And I like and you know, he has a good idea, or I feel like I have a good idea. And it's like, we kind of go through, and it's just a cool place to be. Like, it's chill, you know, you get to see Heather work and Ron hang out. That's kind of how it works, I think, a little bit. But, you know.
That's how it was when I saw him at Tampa Repticon.
When we see him at like Daytona or Tinley, he'll always be talking, and she always comes by and she's like, Ron. And I'm like, oh boy, you're in trouble, buddy. Like he's the I don't want to say the icon, whatever he is. She's the worker, and he's the face or whatever.
Yeah, I think
What a
when I
face.
was talking to him, now that you say that, Heather like walked up behind him and I was like, "Oh, I think you're needed," and she's like, "No, it's fine."
I think that's how their life just goes. Like, luckily, she's super cool and chill, and he seems to be the same. So it works. Whatever it is, it works. And when you go down there, like it's a cool place with a lot of neat stuff. You know, it'll be kind of one of those things where you kind of he's always changing something around, moving things, and so I don't know. Like when he had all the monitors there, it was awesome. Now they have like frills and blue tongues in some of those cages, but they have this bank of cages right outside their back patio. That's like I want to say it's like 8 cages that are all like 8 by 8 by 8.
Wow.
And like at one time when I went there once, it was like there was croc monitors and black throats and what else was in there? There was lace monitors in a lot of them, and like it was just. And he doesn't
Man.
do any monitor. Well, to my knowledge, he's not doing any monitors right now. But last time I was there, he didn't have it. But it was like they were all just up basking, like above your head. So when you went out there, there was just big lizards just out, like just it was awesome. Like it was just awesome.
Wow.
Like but last time I went there, there were frills everywhere, which I would, it's kind of hard to beat a good frilled dragon. So like there were frilled lizards up there basking, and then you go around and see all the bearded stuff like that. Like no, it's a super cool setup. It's yeah, and then he's got his frogs he's doing and whatever else, and he's got the garage he's got out there, and I don't know. I saw he's got fat tail geckos. I don't know. They always got something going around.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to go out there. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially bringing the kids out there. They're going to have a blast.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy and easy to hang out with. So that'll help.
Yeah, he's such a good dude. So the black milk snakes, do you have any of those at the zoo, or do you just keep them privately?
No, I just keep them myself. So I just I have everything in one room. I do boas and pythons depending on what they are up higher. I do colubrids on the bottoms. So like if I have I use the super, like for this side I have the Super 70, like those Reptile Basics makes basically a CB70 that's a little bit bigger. And so I use those tubs. And I have like Hondurans and corn snakes and the black milks on the bottom. And I got ball pythons and some short tail males and some Maclot males that are smaller. I got some Hog Island boas growing up in there. And then I got ball pythons scattered in there. And then on the other side, I've got like Leonis and some others. What else I got over there? But actually, mainly I have just some Leonis and some more bloods and short tails, and then ball pythons on that side. And that's all in ARS. So yeah, I just try to do colubrids on the bottom, and then I do boas and pythons above.
What do you does the natural history of the black milk snakes fascinate you at all?
As far as like the cool aspect and the thing that I like a black snake. I like the fact that I can see like pattern through them. I mean, I like all the facets of them. I also like the fact that I've actually gone to, I don't hibernate anything anymore. I just feed cycle it and it seems to work. And I don't get any lower in this room than like 74 now.
Oh, wow.
And I breed everything. Like I haven't done the Leonis. This will be the first year to see if that works or not. But, like I found like Hondurans breed better that way. I get bigger clutches of eggs out of Hondurans that way. The corn snakes breed really well that way. I mean, I do olives and Maclots and short tails and, tree bows, whatever in here like that. And it all just works.
Yeah.
I used to get in the 60s and then I kind of stopped. I kind of started making it. So really I have everything set at about 80, and depending on how cold it gets, it'll get down. I want to say the lowest I've seen it go lately is like 74, 73, something like that.
Okay. And does all your heat go off at night, or does it run all night?
It runs.
Okay. So they have a hot spot all the time.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, the hot spots are all like a year new. I went about 10 years or so of just ambient. I had one day where I came in and I moved a tub and the heat tape had burned in the bottom of the tub in an old PVC rack. And so I got freaked out and I didn't use heat tape for a long time. I would use lamps on cages, but I would not use panels. And then Ozzy told me this thing one time where he said, take whatever cage or whatever incubator you have and run it full blast and see how hot you get.
Mm.
And that's when I had a whole bunch of cages with radiant heat panels. And when I did that in 4-foot cages, in like 2 hours, I got up to 140 degrees inside of them.
Shoot.
So if you were to have a malfunction, it would do that quick. And so I did the same thing in my incubator. So like my incubator is a Coke fridge, like a double-sided one. And I think I have like 3 feet of 12-inch heat tape in the whole thing. Because I was like, when I had more of all that stuff, so I've actually gone, like I provide smaller basking now. I've gone to using basking, but everything's a little bit safer. Like I have a lot of the ARS stuff because it's metal. And then the cages, I just have stuff that I usually put the heat on the sides rather than the bottom, so nothing's rubbing. Like the tree boas, I don't really see using it, but so much. But I kind of just pick and choose. Like I've got a rack right here that I actually don't use any heat on at all. So I just have options of where I can move things around. And so like if I feel like I need to move, like I can swap things, and like if somebody needs a cage for a little bit, I'll go move them into a cage, or I'll move them back into a tub, or move them into whatever else and try to see. I've got a lot of these, not a lot, but I got 16 of those really like 3x3 by like 9-inch ARS tubs, which I just love. I think using those bigger tubs like that just makes everything so much easier. And then I've got 2 racks of those big ARS tubs, the real big ones. And I really like those too. Like, I don't know.
The, I was using, what do they call them? Like a heat emitter, not a ceramic one though. It was like a tungsten coil.
Yeah.
And, I got rid of those and I switched over to all 25 watt, basking bulbs from Exoterra. And kind of like you said, they run at 100% all day long. And I feel so much more safe that way, because on a normal day, the hotspot gets up to 88. And if it's, if it gets real hot in the house, maybe it'll go up to like 90, 92, but it's at 100%,
You know what the nice thing about a light bulb too is, when it doesn't work, you can look at it and tell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I think we try to make everything so like fancy, and, a light bulb, if it's on, it's on. Like I don't have it in this incubator. My last incubator, I had a light bulb in the bottom, and the light bulb was attached to the dimmer as well. And I don't know why I haven't done it in this one. So it made it so whenever, like I have a big thermostat in there, and I've got a Govee in there. But I had a light bulb in there, so I could always look in there and see if that light was dimming. Like I knew if it was running or not. And I was like, it was just something stupid that I did, but it made it so like I always knew if it was working right or not.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, like that's like all that, like it's it's you're going against progress or whatever, but it's a hell of a lot nicer to be able to look and go, hey man, that light's off, or something's off over there. Why is that different than normal? It's a lot easier when you can see it and tell it right away than having to go, with those heat panels, you'd never know. You wouldn't, unless you walked over and saw that everything was like plastered against the fronts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know anything's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you do a 25 watt light bulb, like you can't almost do too much with it. And then you can see if it's off. Like it's just a way better way to do things to me.
Yeah. Isn't it weird? Like I kind of made that switch after hearing, Ryan talk about just using light bulbs. And it's like, God, that's so simple, and like a radiant heat panel is expensive. Just one is expensive. And then, you're getting all the herp stats to go with it, and forget it. Now you're at thousands of dollars for a few cages. Yeah.
And do that experiment. Run it on full blast for 2 hours and see what your cage is like. Say your thermostat fails, which could happen,
Yeah.
and you're out at the gym, or you're out with the kids, or at a baseball game, or whatever else. You come home and you're like, well, damn, like, the simpler, the better, I think, is what works. And I, like, even when I went ambient in here, now I would say, like, I actually talked to somebody about this today. Like, so say I was ambient in here, and my nighttime temperatures might get down to like, I have the room set at like 80, But like when it's winter, it's getting colder because it can't keep up. And then in the summer, like I might be 80 in the morning, but then like midday, I might get up to 87 ambient and then kind of bump down. And so like you are changing the temperatures as the day goes. It may not be the same way as providing a basking spot or whatever else, but there is a fluctuation that happens and the animals get to know that kind of thing. And it worked. I have decided I want to, because I've also found, like everybody always says that bloods and short tails don't want to be on the heat, but I have found offering them basking, especially when they're getting ready to lay eggs, those females definitely sit. But I haven't set it. Well, it's 87. I've got it set at 87, but like they definitely sit on it and they seem to want to lay on it. Like I've had 2 clutches laid on top of the heat panels or on top of the heat tape this year for Sumatran short tails.
And so I've noticed that. So I just recently got a couple bloods. I got one from Tim Bailey and one from Kara Norris. And I've noticed that in their tubs, they seem to like being on top of their heat. And I think it's around 86, 87 degrees. Do you think is that too hot?
I'd say if they're choosing it and they can get away from it, then they're doing what they want to do. Are they pissy?
No, the one is a total baby, and the other one will make little huff noises, but no striking or anything.
I find like if they're too hot, especially like in the heat of the summer, like if I haven't turned on the AC in here, like they're mad when they're like a bull snake. Like if you ever take care of Pituophis are one of those things. Like whenever it gets hot, they just get pissed off. And I feel like blood pythons and short tail pythons are kind of the same way. So like, I feel like they'll tell you if it's too hot, and if they're doing well, like I don't have the issues, even no matter how I've taken care of, I've never had the issues where somebody doesn't go to the bathroom for 6 months or whatever else. So like mine go to the bathroom regularly.
Really?
But in these setups, I'm dumping, like I use a combination of like cypress, cocoa, and and sphagnum. And I'll dump like a half gallon of water in there a week and like mix it up in the substrate just because it evaporates out, and I try to change their water a couple times a week because they definitely want the fresh water like that. But I've just found that like they do well if they have the option to warm. Like I don't keep it cold in here, but I don't have it too hot, and they do fine. So I don't know if it's because the moisture, the hydration that makes them poop a lot. But if you have 87 and they're basking, then I'd say a lot of people, like I know Keith McPeak I think his room was set at like 83 for all of his years breeding them. And I did that in here and I had good success breeding them. I haven't been without a Borneo since like 99 or something like that. And I've had females breed when they were 19 years old.
Wow.
And do well with that. So I don't know. Bloods and short tails are such cool snakes. How often do you change out that?
Oh, they are. Yeah. The substrate, how often do you change that? Or like how long does that last?
So I just change it kind of as I go. So like if you go in there and you can tell if it's like if I haven't watered it and it's all like, and they've pissed because they pee a lot, like I'll just dump a section and then add a section. Cause like really urine's is fairly sterile in a lot of ways, like if there's urates and there's poop in there, then I change that out. But I kind of just like always, like I keep a big Rubbermaid. Well, that's not Rubbermaid. But those big like Home Depot Sterilite tubs with the yellow top. I have one of those that has like the bedding in it. And so like I just go through, like if I go in there and it's funky, like, or if it's whatever else, I'll scoop out a section and then just, if I need to wipe it down, I'll just Clorox wipe it down and then I'll add some more. And then I just kind of keep it like in a perpetual, because if you do them on paper, they're just a mess. Like you could almost have to change them like every day. Plus keeping them on bedding, like they really want to be underneath the bedding. Like they like to be in it and under it. And I've found I think they like the cocoa fluffiness and sphagnum fluffiness better than like the why do I keep on saying aspen? The cypress. The cypress like packs down a lot. And so I don't know that they like that as much personally. That's why I just try to mix it up just so it's kind of, that way they kind of, I don't know, I feel like it gives them the option to have kind of a little bit of everything. Because if you use the cocoa and it dries out, it sucks the moisture out of the air, so you dehydrate your snakes. So, I mean, we're a pretty humid place, but if I have the HVAC going on, then it's going to dehydrate the air. So I just try to always rehydrate it myself. And so I know like Vin Russo he convinced me to change a lot of stuff to pine and aspen. So I've like all my Maclots and olives I have on pine and aspen, which I've done that for a few years. But some of the conversations we had, he's like, your stuff is just drying out because that cocoa is sucking all the moisture out of the air. And I think if you're not on top of it, which it's like a fine line between getting it moldy and having it too dry. Like to me, I'm always just adding water and mixing it up. That's what that's what I'll do is I'll go in there and I'll mix it up and see if it's like there's anything clumpy or if anybody sheds or whatever else, and I'll pull those sections out and then replace it. So I don't know, I guess I almost treat it like a fish tank where you're not doing like, I'm not doing full change outs. I'm doing like partials.
Interesting. Yeah. I've noticed when you post pictures, I'm like, damn, his substrate is wet. Like it looks like it's very moist in there.
Yeah. Well, and probably chances are what happened is I just dumped some water in there and then I took a picture. Yeah. So like, so it's probably, I just uncovered them, put some water in there, mixed it up, and then was like, oh, I'll take a picture. You look good. So like, it'll be like that for a day or two, and then it dries out. Like if you'd seen it last night, like I don't know what I did last night, but last night I was like, man, I'm too dry. So somehow I missed something in my cycle, and last night I felt like everybody was a little bit too dry, and so I added water. So if I had taken a picture last night, you'd have been like, oh man, you're at the opposite end. So I try, I use these things. Actually, that's right. I use these Arizona. I don't drink tea, but I use these jugs. And I just kind of go around and I'll take like one of those and like do like a half of one of those in each enclosure and like mix it up.
And that's for a 3x3?
Yeah, it's whatever those things. I don't know what the 8614, whatever. I would say it's probably like 30 inches by 36 inches or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have, like, again, it's not the best for viewing, but it's like I've had bloods and short tails in 6-foot cages. I've had them in 4-foot cages. Sliding glass cages just do not work with them at all because they push all the substrate to the front if you use substrate, and they'll jack up your tracks.
Really?
I did buy some Reptile Basics cages that have like the drop down doors, and I kind of like those, but I just felt like they just cruise a little bit more when you have them in these things. It's almost like it's like the perfect setup.
I love bloods. Now that I have 2 of them, I'm like, oh man, they're awesome. They're so cool.
They're awesome. Yeah, it's hard to beat. I have a couple of pair of Bankas. I've got some martyr animals on the bloods, and I've got a pair of slackline, and then I've got some black Sumatrans, some pumpkin Sumatrans that are het caramel, and then I've got 2.3 Borneos. Just a few of each. I mean, it's enough, but I mean, I have a little bit of each one just because I don't know. I find them all to be pretty fascinating. They're just awesome snakes. Like
they are.
And for what, like I've not been without one, and I don't even know how long. Well, probably since the 90s somewhere. But I would like I also have like a real renewed like love for them going on right now, which is kind of weird. Like I ebb and flow as to what it is that I'm most excited about. And I'd say like, if I could have milk snakes, lyasis, and if I could have milk snakes, lyasis, Amazon tree boas, and bloods and short tails, I would almost get rid of everything else and just do that for now.
Yeah. The female that I got from Tim Bailey is a martyr line, but she has striping on her like back 1/3 of her body, and not striping. I'm sorry, banding. And he posted a picture when they all hatched out, and I immediately reached out to him, and I'm like, dude, please tell me that's a female.
Right.
And yeah, it's a female, and man, she is just absolutely gorgeous. And she's so chill. Like I didn't, like I was prepared kind of for the worst, and just from talking with, so many people and hearing all the stories and everything, and they're so laid back and so relaxed, and I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Even the ones that are feisty, if you just pick them up gently and like support their bodies, like even the feisty ones won't be that feisty. You just have to like pick them up and just kind of like they just don't want to. They don't want to dangle. They want to have somebody kind of hold them up, and yeah, it's hard to beat. Like I don't know, they're just because they're big, but they're not big. And like wait till they get a little bit. Do you have any that are bigger, or are they all babies, or both?
They're just babies. Yeah, 24s.
Like when they hit when they're big and they hit something, like it'll rattle the cage. Like it is just like the amount of power that they have in that body is just impressive and incredible. And they get just those good head. Like it's a shame that they have a reputation for being that way. And some of them deserve it, I would say, but I think more of it's keeper error than animal error. But yeah, I think they're a perfect bigger snake for somebody to have. They're just awesome.
Yeah, and it's got to be the generations of captive breeding too, right? That's
I think that, and I think they're a little bit easier to take care of than they were before too. But I think that's because they're not 90 some degrees in a swamp. Obviously you're saying mine are wet, but like some people would say they needed to be like almost in like a bog.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you ever want to get lost in there a little bit, there's a guy you can follow. I don't remember what his thing is, but I found a guy on YouTube that goes and finds them in the wild. And he's like goes and he has this hatchet and he goes and finds them. And they're basically like in these burrows that are like at the base of trees or the base of whatever else. And they are completely fossorial. Like like when you see it, you're like the perfect cage for them would be a 55-gallon drum filled like 2/3 with substrate with like a hole in it, and they just would live at the bottom. It's like if you watch the stuff, it's like, I mean, the guys dig. I mean, it's got some moisture to it, but they're basically just they're in some sort of a burrow, and there's not much room to move, and they're just packed in there. And he goes around and he knows like what to look for, so he'll look like for whatever and he's speaking. And he might be insane. I don't know where he is exactly, but like, I'll get lost and watch it for a while and then he's not the best handler. He'll like kind of throw him around a little bit, unfortunately, but like it's awesome to see where they're supposed to be, so there's great aspects of it. And then you're like, but obviously a wild blood python, you probably don't want to be like gentle with it because it'll probably tear you up, but he could be gentler. That's what it's. He could be a little more gentle in it, but it is awesome to see like where they like what they naturally are doing.
I really want to see that, and I want to see what their body composition looks like too.
I will when we're done with this thing, I'll try to see if I can find one. I'll send you them.
Please do, because
I haven't watched one in a long time, but it was super cool.
I think the last person I heard about this from was Matt Minatola, and that was like a year ago. And so. Yeah,
and he's one of the ones that told me to be on your show too a year ago.
Oh yeah,
I love that guy too. He's a fan. He's come here and stayed once or twice. Like he's and I've gone up there and stayed a couple times too. Like he's a great dude.
He is. I got to get him back on. He's such a nice guy, especially now that I have bloods. I need to get him back on.
Yeah, I mean he's the Borneo king at this point. Like I don't know at this point. He's been the Borneo king for a while. Since he took Keith's torch.
Yeah, his animals are insane looking, dude. They're just crazy.
Yeah, no, and he knows how to take care of them, and he knows how to pick out the right stuff, and he has no shortage of holdbacks. When you go there, you're like, buddy, what are you doing with all these things? He's just like, he picks and chooses and lets them grow up for a little bit and gets the right one. And I mean, he's got a good eye, and he's not afraid to like hold on to it for a little bit. Make sure he gets exactly what he wants and move forward. And he's done a fantastic job with that species.
Yeah. He's a professional for sure. The crazy thing is how low key he is, and like just like he's like the most humble guy.
Yeah.
But the animals speak, for him. I think that's, like if you didn't get to see the animals that he breeds, he's such a humble guy, that, he doesn't jump on podcasts and brag about how incredible his animals are, but then you see them and you're like, geez, Louise.
Yeah, no, he's put a lot of work in. Yeah. And he's just that in person too. He's just a chill, easygoing, other than being from Philadelphia, he's pretty great all around.
That one thing. Yeah, when you talked about the strike force, it reminds me of my Argentine female.
Yeah.
She's like 6.5 feet, and when she hits something, it is wild, the force that she has.
Yeah, boas are strong. Yeah, there's wait till you have like I think boas are different because they're more like wait till you have a big blood python and it hits something. You'll be like you might rethink the boa thing a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It just the way that they hit stuff, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
I can't wait. I can't wait for them to grow up, and they're growing fast. They are growing wicked fast.
Yeah, they're kind of weird in the fact that like you can feed them, and it's almost like they just take the whole rat and grow.
Yeah,
like it's like they use the whole thing. Like I've had it before where I feed them a big meal and be like, "Man, that was big," and then you go back the next week and you look at it and you're like, "Did you grow into the meal?" Like I swear that meal was too big for you, and now I'm like, you're the right size. Like they do weird things.
Yeah, no, you're literally describing my thought process. Like, I'm like, maybe a small rat's too big, and then it's like, yeah, that might have been too big. And then you go back and you're like, actually, small rats definitely, that almost looks too small now.
Yeah, well, it's amazing what they can do. Look at that body, but like they can take things down that make you go, I don't know. They're just they should be more popular. I think they've kind of made a couple runs with the pied. We'll see how the pied does as the price comes down, if that'll change all of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to not like, I have a good collection of ball pythons, and like people do, gravitate towards that for the investment part, but also like I make a lot of them that like I don't like I found every time I've tried to invest in something, it doesn't ever go very well. Mm-hmm. Like I do better with the stuff that I just think is pretty, that I just have, that I like.
Yeah.
And so I hope that's what will happen, I think, with bloods and short tails, because they are stronger, they are going to take a little more thing. I don't think they can't be really like a fad, I guess they can be, but like nobody's going to fill up 10 ARS racks with blood pythons over the weekend, whereas that could happen with ball pythons just because they're easier in that respect. But I kind of feel like bloods and short tails are actually easier to keep than ball pythons, and I think they're actually easier to breed, like personally.
How so?
Just they don't like a ball python. Like if you don't feed it, like if you're trying to breed it and you don't feed it regularly, they don't keep weight if they're in that cycle. Like you need to make sure you're feeding them. Whereas like a blood or short tail python, you can feed them and they hold weight very well. Like they could probably shoot. I'll bet you an adult ball python probably has more volume of rodents going in a year to breed than an adult blood python. Just because their metabolism is different.
Yeah. Do you how old do they have to be to breed a blood python in your experience?
I don't know that I would say I pay attention to that part. I'd say probably, in my head, I'm saying 3 or 4. I'm trying to think of how old those. I have a pair of Borneos that I tried to breed this year that they did not. And I would say he's small. Like she's big enough, but he's small and he just didn't put any effort in. So I feel like it might just be him. But I would say probably at least 3 or 4.
Yeah. And that's safer.
Yeah, and I would say, but like Dave and Tracy, when they were doing all this stuff originally, I don't know if they did it with short tails, but like the original Irian Jayas, they were doing all that stuff at like 18 months, 2 years old. Like they were able to do things at a rate that doesn't make sense to me. Like I just don't feed that way, I guess. My stuff doesn't grow that way. Well, because I'm not feeding that way. I've never had anything grow like that, but I feel like when all these things were like originally coming in and they were making all this stuff happen, they were breeding stuff so fast that they just had like, I've never been there, so I don't know how their setup is, but whatever they were doing seemed to, they had that part down.
Yeah.
Whereas I just go slower, which is always the funny thing for me on ball pythons. Like people are like, oh man, that ball python's a year old. It's only 400 grams. I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, if that was a boa and you had 1,000 gram ball python at a year, or a boa, people would be like, man, you're overfeeding it. But if it's a ball python, you're underfeeding it. It's kind of funny how that all works to me. Like the rules are different for different species. Where I'm like, it still looks like it's in good health. It's got good weight. It's got good body composition. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
But man, it's supposed to be heavier. Is it? Like really? I don't like.
Yeah.
People have different rules for different stuff.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I'm curious to see like what the body composition of a short tail being pulled out of a hollowed out stump looks like.
Yeah, I think you get like you have like a little bit of the ridge in the back. Like they're not lean. Well, they're lean probably, but they're not like skinny. They're still pretty round. Yeah. As soon as we get off here, I'll find you that thing because it's like they're still pretty big. Like, but it makes you wonder. Like I know Justin Kabelka did a thing where he like said, like they were finding ball pythons in burrows, and then once they would shed, like they would sit in there and eat, and then once they would shed, they would move on to another burrow. Which would mean they're just sitting in there and peeing on themselves and pooping and whatever else, unless they're doing that every night when they're going out. But like if a blood python's sitting in there and they're peeing, they're urinating as much as they do.
Yeah.
But it's also outside, and it's also so they could do that, and it just probably seeps into the ground, so it's not really going to make a difference.
Yeah.
But like the way these things are in there, like they're just packing themselves in. It's crazy. It is crazy. Like I joke about that 55-gallon drum, but it's kind of true. Like if you look at these things, you're just like
that deep in.
Like I found when I give a blood python a big cage, like they'll cruise, but they're cruising because they're looking for that security. Like sometimes the motion, they might be looking to go from one place to the next. Look, it's like when you put it, they're not liking that big open space. They want to be able to find that place where they can go sit.
Yeah, that I plan on keeping mine in 4x2 by 18-inch enclosures.
18 is good. Make sure I did the 1 foot tall and it was too short because you can't get above them. Like if you want to pick them up, like it's hard to go above them. The 18 is a way better idea.
Yeah, I think Rich Crowley told me the same thing, and also he said like if they bite and wrap, like there's not a whole lot of room for them to wrap.
Yeah, for me too. I use those big ceramic crock bowls. And like, so what I'll do is like, whenever I pick up the bowl, I'll dump it. And if you use the big ones and you try to dump it and it's just a foot tall, you can barely even dump it in there.
Yeah.
So I found that I just didn't like those foot tall cages, but I would say depending on who makes them, don't you have a guy? Haven't I heard you say you have a guy that makes cages for you?
Yeah, I've got a guy.
I would see if you could make the lip a little bit taller.
Go deeper substrate.
Yeah, just so you can have it, because they're just going to push. Like if you put substrate in there and you have sliding glass, I would say if you can, I would do a swinging door of some sort, just because I think it's going to work better with the way that they move substrate around. But if you do paper, it wouldn't matter either way. But I would probably see and even if you could just get like an insert, maybe not mess up the cage just in case you want to use it for something else. But if he could cut you, like if I look at that cage behind you and you're like, say that's a 3-inch lip on the front, see if he could make you like a 5-inch one. Or something you could put on the backside just to give you a little bit of extra depth. So if they decided they wanted to get underneath, they have something to kind of push around. Yeah.
What is that? It's probably like 4 inches, I would say. So yeah, maybe like a 6-inch lip or something like that.
Yeah. Just and even if it was just a piece of that material that you could put on there and attach somehow, or if it just would stick or whatever, Velcro it or whatever. But if you could just do something just to make it so that way you have a little bit more of a dam. I think that would.
And I'm going to do radiant. I planned on doing radiant heat panels for them too.
Yeah. So just do a really low wattage one.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Like the lowest I can get.
Yeah, I don't even know what they make them in, but if you do something low, just do that, or I think they'd even be okay if you did back heat or something like that,
Yeah.
Although, do those have an opening that you could put lights underneath? Like, do you have like a gap in between?
Yeah, these are spacers, and so the heat lamps and the T5 bulbs and all that are in the spacer. So there's no lighting like inside the cage.
I mean, if you do those, could you almost make it so the heat comes from the light from underneath? Like have LED and then have the heat that because they're not going to, well, they might bask, but they're probably not going to go bask so much as they are going to go like sit underneath something that's warm. Like
yeah,
if
and
you could have the heat.
that's why I figured just go with a radiant heat panel, make it,
Yeah.
you know, just trying to think of like ways to make them feel more secure. So a little dimmer, you know, not as bright.
Yeah, and if you just put some hide boxes in there they can touch, they want some contact security. So if you can
Yeah.
have it so they can just touch something, they'd be okay.
Yeah, my guy makes he's making me hides too out of PVC.
Oh, nice.
So it's yeah, and then and they fit. I get these slate placemats from Walmart.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, like $15. And I put those down as a basking spot. So like my boas love that, as you can imagine, right? Because that slate gets up to be, you know, 90 degrees, and the boas will get up on that and just lay there and soak it up. And they're under the basking light and everything. And so he's making me PVC hide boxes that hold those on the top, so they can go up and lay on the stone, or they can go underneath and hide.
That's nice. So is it a cage company or just a friend of yours that makes them for you?
It's a cage company. Yeah. Maze Exotics is his company.
Maze Exotics?
Yep. MAZE.
Okay. I always would like to get hide boxes. So like, do you know who Craig Trumbauer is?
Yeah.
So he has an amazing snake room, but when you go there, he's made all of his cages and he's made all these hide boxes. And I'm like, so all of his hide boxes are basically these like rectangles made out of wood. And I'm like, I like them, but I would rather have them out of PVC. So I'm always waiting for somebody to make that out of some other material.
Yeah.
Maybe that guy's going to make it. Maybe he'll make the perfect. I'm like, because his cage just the uniformity and the nice, like it just looks so nice.
Yeah.
And then it gives them, then it does what you're saying. Like they can hide underneath it. They can sit on top of it. It just like, it adds a little bit of surface area, you know.
Yep.
I like a lot of that. That's all these animal plastics cages. All the ones I get, I try to make sure I get a shelf in them. Try to add some perches in them, so that way just you get as much surface area as possible out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And so with those hide boxes he's making for me, he's going a little higher on them too. So like 6 inches high. That way they can go inside and I can pile up substrate in there. And if they want to push it out, they can, you know, do whatever they want. They can kind of burrow down in there. But like you said, you're getting more surface area. So you know, these pieces of slate are like, I think they're like 16 inches long and I don't know, maybe 14 inches wide or something like that. So they're pretty big pieces of slate, but they're only a 1/4 inch thick. So they're light. And then I in my mind, I imagine the snake's probably like the way a warm stone feels, you know, like it's gotta feel good, you know, to get up on top of. So yeah, I'll send you some pictures of some of the prototypes he's working on. You can.
No, I'd love to see it, and I like the idea of having like it's nice to have like those animal plastics ones I bought pieces so I could have heat lamps in between like that. So it's nice that somebody else is making something like that. And it looks clean.
Yeah, he's awesome. You should see my Australian wall. It's 4 4 by 2 by 2.5 foot tall enclosures with spacers. So it's like it's got to be like 6.5 feet tall, I think, with the base. And then he did 3 by 2 by 1.5 inch enclosures for me. So it's one entire wall. It's like a 12-foot expansive caging.
I think you posted a picture or a story. I watched something that I saw because they're all different sizes, like in there, kind of.
Yeah.
No, it looks good.
Yeah, it came out really nice. He's a master of cage building.
Well, it's nice to have the uniform. Like to me, like when everything like matches and looks right, like it just makes it so much easier to deal with.
Yeah,
I'm definitely that guy. Like if things aren't organized or like right, then I'm gonna spend more time frustrated over why it's that way rather than doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, I need to just fix this, and like I don't know where to start. So like when you have something like that that's all put together nicely, like that just makes such a difference.
Yeah, and he knows how crazy I am. I'm pretty particular with the way everything looks and lines up, you know, and he made it so that those 4 by 2 by 2.5s, like everything matched up straight across, you know, so everything is the same height, you know, so it came out perfect.
Have you ever checked out Star Python's cages? That guy, man, I know his name. They're in Germany, and goodness gracious.
No, but I'll check it out when we get off.
But yeah, if you look at it, he has all of his python cages are like, I want to say they're like 4 by 2.5 by 2.5, but they all have like 2 triangular perches set up in them. So there's like a ledge here and a ledge here on each one of them. And so it's like rows of just cages where everything's well lit, and he has diamonds in there and jungles and coastals and whatever else. And it's like there's no actual branches, but it's like you have a ledge here, you have a ledge here, and then bedding and water. It's just a nice uniform setup that like a lot of space, and it all just like works good, which I know Germany has rules. So he has to abide by certain rules, probably by the way they have regulations, but it really does look nice.
Yeah, it's that I go out and I cut off like oak limbs and everything, and then I kind of tie everything together and I lag screw them to the sides of the enclosures so that way they're super secure and the snakes have a place that they can perch up on.
Right.
And, man, they love it.
Yeah, I have a lot of crepe myrtle here, so I cut a lot of crepe myrtle, which is smooth, and use that in a lot of the stuff that I have, which and then then I'll get tired of it, move it out, and get another piece and put it in there, and
yeah.
So no, it's not. That's the fun part, especially if you have like I have a lot of stuff that like is completely okay being in a tub, and then I have a lot of stuff that's not. So I try to make it so like the stuff that's not has that, and the stuff that is try to make it so it's species specific, and you do it whatever works best for the species you have.
How do you ensure that you're not bringing any pests or anything in when you bring your stuff in?
So I'm just doing like if it's crepe myrtle, I'm just cutting live stuff. So it seems like they don't have any. There's no bark on it, so it doesn't seem to be an issue. I've never had it. I've been doing it forever. Like I try not to go. I don't go get stuff that's rotting or has already fallen off. I live cut it, and it seems like if you do that, especially because there's no bark, you can see if there's anything on it. And then if I need to, I can scrub it and hose it and whatever else before I come in. But I've never had an issue with that at all. So it's what I've been doing kind of forever because crepe myrtle is just kind of everywhere here. And I've got 2 big ones in the backyard. I've done it also with mimosa, which mimosa is another one of those ones that doesn't really have any bark. It has like a thin piece of bark, but it's not like overlapping.
Yeah.
And so I'll cut but it's nice because both of those give you a lot of Ys and a lot of forking and a lot of whatever else. So like, especially for like the Amazon, some of my smaller ones, I'll take them and then I'll take them and like bend them and put them in there. And then when you put them out, they like tighten up and like fill in the whole gap. So you get kind of like an umbrella, like almost like the branches coming off the tree down. And like right now it's hard to see, but I have an Amazon that's sitting on the top of one that I just fed last night. It's like, it just makes it so there's like a good surface area to sit on, which is probably fairly natural for how they would sit because it's like how the branches would come out off a tree.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like my jungles with the branches I kind of string together. They're, man, they love perching up on that and then hanging down in their hunting position and, or tagging the snot out of me if I go in to put a water bowl in, which I'm about to do. This is actually
the first time I sold my last jungle to Jeff Hartwig October Tinley. And so this is the first time in 20 years that I haven't had a carpet python in this room, which is kind of weird. And I'm kind of regretting it a little bit, but I had line bred some jungles that I had gotten since like 2006, 2005.
Whoa.
And I had done like 3 generations of like just really speckly, beautiful jungles. And then I was just like, oh, I'm going to take a break. And then I'm like, should I have taken a break? But like, you can't hang everything. But I've been slowly thinning out ball pythons. So I figure as I do that, once I figure out what the number is that I want to keep, then I'll just go around and move some of that stuff out and figure it out. The problem with ball pythons is like, you make stuff and you're like, oh, this is cool. And you think you've gotten to a good spot. And then all of a sudden you look at whatever you're growing up and you're like, well, damn, I got 15 more that I didn't even realize that I kept. That, I mean, I realize because I'm feeding them, but I'm like, all of a sudden they get to a size and you're like, what did I just do? Like, I thought I was making, like, how did I go from this to this? Like, they all of a sudden add up quick.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life where I hated them and then I loved them. And I still I like a lot of them a lot. But they're really nice for having with kids and whatever else. Like my son can come in here and pick up whatever he wants. He has certain ones that he'll go sit on the couch, I can put on his lap, and he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. But it just can get out of hand quick.
I broke my son's heart by I got rid of our ball pythons, and he was pretty sad. I know, he was pretty sad for a couple days. If we, you know what, I was talking to some of my Patreons on our Discord chat, is I can't believe that there's nobody that is line breeding ball pythons, normal ball pythons, for like the nicest looking representation of a normal wild type ball python.
Eric Kohler, in the last year or two. Do you know Eric Kohler?
Yes. I don't know him personally. I know his name.
He's another one of those super nice guys, but he recently, or in the last year or two, bought some of the like locality ones that came in. Really? Yeah. So I don't know that he's at a place where he's breeding them yet, but he had bought a I have to ask him again, but I want to say he bought like 2 pair of like a locality animal that he was like, I'm just going to make locality ball pythons. And I'm like, yes, it's a fantastic idea.
That's what we need. Yeah. That is truly, I think that's what the ball python community needs. I think that, and I think that it would honestly, it would make it more appealing to people if it was like a line bred or a locality ball python, you know, especially if you were like, hey, this one's got a lot of yellow in it, you know, and man, you could really make an awesome looking ball python.
Well, and that's what it used to be. Like, you know, when it was the 90s, before the pastel and before all that kind of thing, it was really just people had high golds, or they had, you know, whatever, you know, collections back then it's kind of like my collection now. But like, you know, I think I have 19 species is what I think I have in here, something like that. But like if you got a price list, which I have a book of price lists from back in those days where, you know, the collection, nobody had 300 ball pythons. You know, now that's pretty normal for a lot of people. Even people that are new might be like, I have 200 ball pythons. And I'm like, how the hell are you feeding 200? Like, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I like, if I have 70, I'm like, I'm losing my mind. You know, I'm like, I need to, like, I find for me, my number for ball pythons should be 30. And that's where I'd like to be. I'm not there right now, but I'd like to be there. But yeah, everybody before, they'd have a pair of this or a pair of that, or a 2.3 of this and a 2.3 of that. And, you know, maybe they had leucistic Texas rat snakes and they had some albino Nelsons, and then, you know, maybe a pair of ring pythons or a pair of short tails or whatever else. And it was like just all this diversity that made it so it was like you're always challenging yourself with new stuff. The challenge, like, not to say the ball pythons aren't challenging, because trying to figure out how you're going to do this and make a nice thing and make a good quality. I just like to make stuff that I think's pretty. You know, I don't really care about I don't really want to make triple heads of anything. I made some last year and I keep on looking at them going, what did I do? And I'm just like, I'd rather make a banana Enchi clown that I think is just beautiful. And, you know, I've sold some of those to overseas. I sell those to different people. I've sold those to families. Like, I'd rather make stuff like that I just think is pretty when it comes out. And is it cheaper? Yeah, but I'm okay with cheaper. I've actually really found that I'm happier with the, say, $100 to like $300 or $400 sale is my, like, I'm happier with the customer that I get. Like, I know they can be a pain in the neck, but I like the enthusiast that's trying to figure out what they want, that wants to like learn something, that wants to figure out what this is about. And like, I feel like you get more of that kind of thing out of there. Whereas the investor that's just coming by, that's just getting it because it's the whatever. You know, it might not even be that pretty, but it was a valuable thing. Like, that's what I always said about Savus. Like, I had Savus when they were $75 and you could barely sell them. Now I've got them. I haven't bred them in a long time, but like, what are they, like $800 a piece? And I'm like, all that means to me is that I feel like they're going to drop at something. Like, I feel like that's a $300 snake, you know, $300 or $400 snake. Like, that's what, like, Maclots. I sell males for $300, females for $350. I haven't made olives in a couple of years, but I feel like olives I would usually do for like, I feel like it was like $1,000 a pair, or maybe $900, something, but like around $500, $400, like those are like, things don't need to be $1,000, you know? Yeah. It just makes it unattainable for a lot of people, and finding people that really want to be involved in something, you can really meet people that way and find stuff, and I've given some stuff away, and I find that to be pretty rewarding in all honesty. Like I've done it a couple times. There's a girl that I've given, a young girl that her parents were scared to death, and I gave her a ball python, and like next thing you know, I'm like, they're hugging me, and they come back and see you, and they hug you every year, and like that kind of stuff. It's kind of what it's all about, you know.
Yeah.
You change like that experience. That girl couldn't go. Her dad was like, absolutely not. And then next thing you know, we gave him a snake, and then he warmed up to it, and you know, obviously with parent consent and whatever else. But that was a 2 or 3 hour trying to get there and figure it out. But you know, it's nice to get to that point and get somebody else excited about these things, and not make it so like, I don't know about you, but like there's times where I have money and there's times where I don't. And so like there's plenty of things that I want. And if it's $1,000, I might be like, I want it, but I can't afford it today. Yeah. But if it's $200 and I want it, like I'm not saying disposable pet stuff, but it's a lot more likely that I can get the cool stuff that I want for that $200 to $500 range than if it's $1,000 or more.
Yeah. No. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's times where I bought Timor pythons, and there's times where I couldn't.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's cool that you're out there, you know, kind of hooking families up with ball pythons. You know, that's
what we have redfoot tortoises and breed them, and I haven't ever sold one yet. Like I just like people come over and they'll be like, I like those tortoises, and be like, well, would you like one? And so like, it's kind of like the way to give back. Like it's kind of like the kids love them. They're outside most of the year. They really cost nothing to take care of because we feed them banana leaves and grass clippings and leftover strawberry parts and some greens here and there. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. Whatever you can do to foster the next generation of doing this.
Yeah, that is so important, right? Like you think about how unattainable some of this stuff can be. You know, if you set a really lofty standard, you know, like just they need X and Y and this and that, and it's like who are you trying to sell to? You know, it's you're trying to sell to people that have, you know, an excess of income and all that, and sometimes it's the kids. You know, it's kids. It's the next generation that needs the exposure, or they're not going to care about reptiles.
Yeah, and I also work in a place where the majority of people tell me how horrible the animals that you work with are, or they're scared of it, or they don't want to look at it, or, you know, so anything that I can have, like everybody wants to tell you what you're doing wrong and what everything is, what they can do better. And so when you can find things and you can make it so it's a positive experience, it's nice for me. It's nice for the other person. I think that's a lot of it, is that it's like, it's a positive outlet. Like I love what I do, but sometimes the people make it so it's harder because they want to, you know, everybody comes to look at it, but not everybody loves it.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and they might leave loving it.
Out. Yeah.
You know, we feed a big retic on exhibit. We only do like 5 meals a year, but like we might give her 1 or 2 10 to 12 pound rabbits. And then somebody will sit there and watch. Like we've had many a person come up and, you know, they're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. And then 45 minutes later, they're still talking to you and looking at it. And they're like, oh my God, did you see the glottis and how it took a breath and how whatever else? And like, you know, and so it's a teaching moment, and you have these people that come and they're like, I hate this. I'll never look at it. Next thing you know, they're asking you 40 minutes of the questions. And, you know, so you can figure out ways to impact people and have a positive experience, again, for yourself and for them.
Yeah. So do you, when they start asking a bunch of questions, are you interested in a ball python?
I never sell them anything like that. But I mean, you know, whenever you're selling somebody something or whatever you're doing, whatever else, it's a heck of a lot easier to hand them a ball python than a Macklot's python or a corn snake.
Yeah.
You know, if I hand you a corn snake or a king snake or a milk snake, it's going to be on the floor. It's going to have crapped on you. Whereas you could put your hand out, I could put a ball python in it. It's going to be there. Shoot, you could put it down, go to the bathroom and come back. It might still be there. You know, It doesn't work that way with all the other stuff. So it makes it's a nice, I don't want to say a gateway drug, but it's a nice way to like make it so somebody can have a time to be comfortable and then figure that out. You know, if they ate frozen all the time, which most of my babies do, but like that would make it a lot easier. But there's a lot of things about it, which that's where the bloods and the short tails, now again, they could be reactive and all kind of thing. That's at least nice. You could put your hands out and they'll sit there.
Yeah.
But again, that's bigger than most little kids are going to want, and probably a little bit more snake than most kids want. That's where the ball python kind of comes in. It just like, it kind of works for that.
Yeah. I got my oldest son pulling water bowls now. This is his second week doing it, and he's kind of like, he's like, do I need to worry about the Timor python? We have the Timor. His name is Philip Timor Hoffman, and he's like, do I need to worry about Philip? And I'm like, look at him, read his body language, like see what he's, start learning this stuff now, and do it while I'm sitting here, and I can kind of let you know. And he's like, he seems fine. And it's like, yeah, he's just chilling,
Well, that's what, and I guess it's because I do venomous stuff, but a lot of times I open most things up with a hook, especially when my kids are in here. And so I have a small metal hook, and I have like a 40-inch like cage hook, like a Midwest Tongs hook. And so like when my son comes in, he knows it's kind of like he's made it so like he knows to get the hook, and if he's going to open something up, he does it not with his hands. And so it makes it so that way you have that extra minute or a couple seconds to figure out how that reaction is going to be right out. He's 6, but so he's not doing but so much, but it's made it so like he's just always been like, he's like, this is my hook, and I'm like, yeah, it's your hook. Like he just comes in. Now he's why I got rid of a lot of my cages, because I had a lot of clay cages that had glass sliding doors. Yeah. And that boy's a wrecking ball, and I was worried he was going to break glass. So I did get rid of some cages and replace them with some acrylic face fronts. And I did go to a couple different rack systems because of him, just to be safe. I'm not trying to make a bad experience if I could help it. But that way he could be a little more involved, because he just really likes being involved.
Yeah. Do you have any concerns about like taking any viruses from the zoo or anything and bringing it home to your collection?
No, because we like before anything comes there, it's going to get every test known to man. So like if something goes, if anything comes there, it's getting X-rays, it's getting PCRs done, it's getting 2 to 3 clean fecals. It's getting mouth swabs. And then when it gets there, it's going to get that all over again. Wow. And then every 6 months, we're going to do at least fecals on it. So the chances of something coming from that collection, not to say it can't, are very slim. Which is part of the reason why it's such a hard thing to get animals, because like if you had something I wanted to get, you would have to provide all of that for us. So like it can't come, even if it's going into our quarantine. It can't come to our quarantine until it's had blood work, PCR, negative fecals, and then it can come to our quarantine, and then we're going to do it all over again.
Wow.
And depending on where it's coming from, if it's like an amphibian, maybe 30 days, but most things 90 days. And then if it's from a private place, it might even be more than 90 days.
Wow.
Because like vets in general, like they're not going to take a chance at having something come in that's going to affect our collection. So in the PCR, because you could do crypto one time, then you could do it again. Like you can get a negative, then you can get a positive. And so they do nido tests. They do all of those tests. So whatever tests they're looking for, rhinovirus, depending on whatever animal is, if we're getting a frog or an amphibian of any sort, they're getting multiple chytrid tests before they come in, rhinovirus tests, all that kind of thing. So yeah, like tested and checked to the hilt before anything comes in. So it makes it so you're pretty safe as far as all that stuff goes.
That's awesome. That's wild. So honestly, the zoo animals are more in danger from getting something from your collection.
Yeah. I mean, true. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. But at this point in time in my life, like I don't really get stuff from people I don't trust, So sure. Like I'll get like, I haven't got anything from him in a long time, but like I've gotten a couple things from like Vin Russo. We've done some trades, or like I have a friend, Nick, that works at the Nashville Zoo, and he and I have done some different stuff. I've got a couple of friends that are herp keepers at other places that we've done some deals back and forth. But like, really, I'm not bringing in, or Craig Trumbauer, like I'm not bringing in things from people that aren't really friends. Like I very rarely am ever doing a purchase from somebody I don't know.
Vin is another one that does overhead lighting too, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard him saying that on Cush's podcast. That was a fantastic episode. It was like 5.5 hours and so much information.
That's why I texted the next day. I'm like, that's a long. I was like, I tried to listen to it, but I couldn't do it. And he's like, I know we had a lot of questions. I was like, you're a chatty somebody, but I love Vin. Vin's one of those guys. He's a New Yorker with a lot of opinions and a lot of New York. I don't know. But we go to dinner every Tinley. We go to dinner at least 1 or 2 nights while we're there. And he's a great guy to bounce stuff off of back and forth. And he has good quality stuff and he knows how to do it right. And he's had a great experience. And he's another one of those, like, there's so many good people in the industry that are there. You just have to, but you have to realize, like, those New Yorkers, they're a handful. Like they have a personality. You got to make sure you're okay with the personality.
All my family is from.
So I like.
Oh yeah, my whole family's from Long Island. So trust me.
That's where my mom's from. So
yeah, I feel your pain.
And that's where he's from. So
Yep, they're a different breed.
But I mean, talk about a meticulous. Like he doesn't waver. I feel lucky because I think he's got 3 or 4 pairs of snakes from me, which he's always like, I don't bring anything in. So I always feel nice. Like if he wants something and I've done that. So, I mean, it's nice to have built something up where you can do things like that and they feel confident in you and you're confident in them and make it so things work out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. God, he's got so much knowledge. It's crazy.
Yeah, no. And yeah. Yes. he knows a lot of things. He's not afraid to tell you that you don't know it either. He's probably going to listen to this. He's going to give me shit tomorrow. I would say every podcast, he always the next day he'll be like, you said this. And I'm like, yes, I do. Sometimes I do it on purpose. It's okay.
Well, if he ever comes on here, he'd be talking to an idiot. So, I mean, it's in the title. So
True. You seem to be doing pretty well. So now you asked me a question about how many snakes do you have? So you have that room behind you and then the other room.
I'm at 20.
20. Okay.
Yep.
What's funny? I always say is, like, when I was 19, I think I was 19. So in the 90s, whatever it was, I had like 12 pythons. It was like I had moved out and I had like a pair of green tree pythons and I had some carpet python. I had some jungle carpets, some coastal carpets. And I thought that I was like, can you believe that I have 12 pythons? Like, it's so crazy to think, like, but at that time, that was a lot of python. It's weird what is acceptable today. I don't want to say acceptable, but maybe more the norm today than it was then. Yeah. Like a big breeder then would have had 200 snakes. Yeah. Whereas today, that's like the guy getting into it after the first 6 months. Yeah. But I think that's why people burn out, is because it's a lot. You can't, especially if you have babies. Like, you think, I mean, shoot, say you have 20 clutches. I don't know. I would say I range between 15 and 30 clutches a year, depending on what it is. Mm-hmm. And like depending on what it is, like if you have 30 and you get, I mean, that's 300 babies or more sometimes. Like that's a job.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't know how people do it. I mean, so when I used to work at a pet shop, and I remember I was not allowed to have snakes at my house. My parents would not allow it. And when we moved out, when my wife and I got our own house, it must have been within 2 weeks, was a ball python. And then it ended up being like 12 snakes. And yeah, when I got back into snakes, I was like, there is no way I'm going to have more than what I had previously. I'm going to have just a couple things. And now here I am at 20. Right. But it's, I mean, between kids and a full-time job, with overtime and, all that, it's like, man, 20 is a lot for me. I don't know how you do it.
I don't either. Sometimes I'll make
you don't sleep.
I make all these lists and I do whatever else. And I'll be like, I'll talk to certain friends and I'll be like, hey, I need to knock 50 off of this or whatever. Cause it'll be like, it's like if I go to to upgrade whatever I had raising up or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did this all come from? Like, what did I do? Like, because it's in the baby rack. So I'm thinking it's like for sale. Like, because you can treat it differently. I don't want to say treat it differently, but like in my head, it's treated differently because it's in that rack. But once you move it in there, you're like, oh man, something's got to leave, which is kind of nice because I'm looking out and I have a lot of empty things. And I'm like, it's a lot more empty than I expected to, which is wonderful. I'm like, I would like to have more empty.
I need to help you out and take some of those Macs off your hands.
Well, I've got 2 you can have.
Are they, so what, in your opinion, what's the best pet liasis? Which one's the most laid back in adulthood? Which one tames down the best?
I think the one you put the effort into, I think I would say for me, males seem to be calmer. Maybe because the feeding, like the females seem like when they're ready to eat, they're just ready to eat.
Like the Timor.
Like right now, like if I were to pull anything out, like I'd say my male olive is really good. And I have 2 male Maclots, and I would say the younger one is really good. The other one can be good as long as you let him realize you're not feeding him. But like the local aquarium here has an Maclots they use for education. They have a male that they use that like has no issue at all. So I think if you get them past that little stage, which, they chill out pretty well. Even if you have, let me just, where are you? You're in the water. But even if you have like, here's one of these little ones. So like, even when you first pull them out.
Oh, it's so tiny.
Like, oh, this one's not at all. So this one's pretty chill.
And that's a little Mac?
Yeah, this is a boy. This is a Teamer Maclots. But like some of them are bitey, some of them aren't. I pulled out the female earlier and she was kind of bitey, but he's not at all. But I've even found like if they are like, if you have them out for a few, they just chill out. Like he's.
Oh man, I have tubs that those would fit into. Oh, look at the
speckling. Like they're beautiful.
Oh my gosh. All right, so what are the different localities?
So there's Teamer and there's Rhodey and there's Ceram. I don't know that I've ever seen a Ceram. I had the Rhodies, but I had Rhodies that I'd gotten that were wild caught, and I think they were doing fine until I started introducing them, and then that was one of the things I should have tested, and I did not, and whatever else, and I ended up euthanizing them because they just were not going down the right road. The Teamer Maclots are real speckled like that. The Rhodies are almost like Savu-ish. Savu, like they're like a bluish with like limited speckles. They're actually really super cool. I liked them a lot. I would like to. I think Eric Kohler might have a clutch of them. Or somebody might have a clutch of them that, or no, he has Duns that he might do that. But I don't know. The Rhodies are super cool. They're definitely different than the Teamer Island ones. I would say like Maclots are super nice as far as touch goes. The olives are like a velvet. So like the olives have like this super smooth feel to them. I would say olives were like my favorite snake overall for a long time. I would say I feel like maybe the Maclots might be beating them a little bit now, just because I don't know, just because it's been a long time and I've probably evolved somewhat. What do you think?
Like, what do you think you would like about the Macs over the olives now?
Maybe the speckling, maybe just because they have different coloration. Whereas the olives are more monotone. I don't know. They're different. Like the olive face is different. It's like a little longer, a little bit bigger. But I'd say even my adult olives aren't really, I think they're big, but they're not that much bigger than the Maclots. Like I would say my male olive is probably not much bigger than my biggest female Maclots at all. But I don't have like my biggest olive python is probably 9 feet, maybe something like that. Like I don't feed them real heavy. Yeah. And I've found that to be like, I have a female, which unfortunately she slugged this year. And she hasn't bred in like 2 years, but she's produced like 8 clutches for me.
Wow.
And like, I mean, she's probably like that big around. she laid, so she would definitely eat me. I would say I'd pull her out, but you would definitely get a show. So I'm not even going to worry about that right now. Because I've just been kind of leaving her alone. I haven't really fed her that much since she laid, so she would not be a good candidate for this at this point in time. They're just different. Like, I don't know. That's why I think I told you before. I was like, you just need to get one of each if you like them. I don't even know. Like, they're just, if you like a speckly snake, then a Macklot's is your snake. If you want something that's more velvety and like unicolor, then the olive is your snake. Activity wise and whatever else, I've had them both where they have perches. They'll both perch. The olives I've had in like, the biggest cage I've had my olives in were like the 6x3 visions. They're like 6x3x18. I had them in there. And then I've had them in like the 54x36x18 visions, which they did really well in that too. Now I have them in those big ARS tubs. I don't think they do pretty well in there too. Like I have that, and then I have like Rubbermaid tubs inside with a hole cut out with. So I've got them on. Actually, they're on pine. So they're on like kiln dried pine, and they have a box in there that has some moss in it that they can go into if they want to go into with a hole, and they sit on top of it. They actually don't really sit on top of it. They either sit in it or they'll be out, but they spend a lot of time just kind of hiding. Like they, I would say, not really hiding, but they go in the box. They like to be in the box, whereas the Macklots sit out a little bit more. So the Macklots might be something that's out a little bit more, but they're both like, if you come in, they check you out. They want to see what's going on.
That I plan on having both. Once I get my building, I want to have both. Then
the whole lice is complex. That's why I was like, I've never had Dunai, and I would really like to have those just to see how different they are from my Macklots. Because I mean, they look kind of similar. They have a little bit different head structure, but like, is there a difference? I had Fuscus. I had New Guinea and Australian Fuscus, and I was dumb and I didn't breed them. I had them, raised them all the way up, and was like, I have too much stuff, and these things are paying. And they just never chilled out. So I sold both of those pair. Actually, I might have traded some, but William has a pair of one of those. I don't remember which one he got, but they just never chilled. And I was just like, I just need more chill. Like theirs wasn't always feeding. Theirs was just, they were just reactive. Too much so. William
needs all the snakes that aren't chill.
Yeah.
That's all of his snakes are not chill.
Yeah. So it was just like, I don't know. I wish I kick myself for not having bred them first before selling them, just because I would have liked to have said I did it, but I'm kind of like, I'm okay with that. The Savus I like. I think my Savus are pretty chill. I'd say I like them. They're a little more drab. Like I think Macklots and olives are better looking than Savus to me. But you can get Savus that have a lot of orange. I've got some that are like more on the darker side. Again, I like them. I think they're a cool snake. I think I just like Macklots better.
Yeah. Yeah, the Liasis, they're all so cool. Definitely olives and Max for me. The Duns, I'm interested as well. Doesn't Dr. Booth have a clutch of them?
He does. I think both he and Eric have a clutch.
Nice. I think I need to get Eric Kohler on.
I don't know if he would do one of these things, but he would be a great person to do that.
Yeah. I want to talk to him about his line breeding of ball pythons. I think that's such an awesome thing.
He'd probably be like, Dennis, why you tell people that? I'm like, I don't know. But no, and especially because he's a very, he likes lineage and he likes to keep things pure. He likes to, he's very good about keeping things kind of the way he feels they should be. Just depending on how you view things, I think it's a nice addition to have in the industry,
Yeah, for sure.
And he also been doing it for a long time, and he does a good job.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to him. All right, man. Well, I think it's late enough for both of us, right? I think you need to.
Yeah, we got a few hours in here. I don't even know what time is it.
Yeah,
10:50. This is way past your bedtime.
No, don't tell me. And I still have to do waters. Damn it.
Ouch. That's what, when I came back here, my wife was like, is this going to be one of those 2-hour ones? And I'm like, probably. She's like, I'll just see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can get the waters done pretty quick. That's the benefit of having only 20 snakes.
Right.
You know, I can run through that pretty quick. I got all the RO jugs already filled up. I'm ready to go.
I'd like to get a hose in here eventually. I see people do that, and I'm like, that'd be awesome.
Do you do RO at your house?
No.
I
just put it in these. I have a sink in here, and I just fill these things up and go around and just walk back and forth.
What's the dimensions of your snake room?
26 by 13.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's real nice. So when I get my building, I want it to be, what I'm looking at is, I think 34 or 38 by 14. But I want to have like a whole separate room that will be like a washroom / incubation.
Nice.
So I'll have the incubator there. I want to have a sink. I want it to be like, so you come in through the door there, and then to go into the actual snake room / podcasting area, because I would move everything to that building so I don't have to bother my family anymore. It'll all be in that area.
Now, do you have property you can do that like right there, or do you have to go somewhere else?
I'm on a half acre. So yeah, it would be right here. Yeah. So, and they make those buildings. I forgot the company, but they make them and they deliver them and they level it, and bam, there's your building.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We have a plot of land behind us that is just wooded and overgrown. And I asked the guy I was like, can I just have 20 feet of that somehow? Cause I was like, I would love to, I was like, I'll buy it. And he was like, oh, it cost you $100,000 or something. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. But,
yeah,
I would love to be able to move it outside. There's part of me that's like, I would love to have it outside. Then I'm also like, I'm in the back of it. Like, you would never know snakes were in the house if you came to our house, but like, I can go in and out and be in like, well, we don't have little kids. I have a 6 and an 8-year-old, but when they were babies, like I could hear, like I could have a monitor. I could run to the other place if I needed to. I used to use gloves a lot then, so that way I could be cleaning. And then if somebody was crying, I could change real quick and go over there and take care of them and come back. And
yeah,
I'm like, if I had to go outside, it might make it harder to do that. But they're probably old enough now that it wouldn't matter as much. But it'd be nice to just have it out of the house if I could do that.
Yeah, when I do mine, it's going to be like I want to walk out the front door and then maybe 15 feet away have the door. So it's maybe even closer than that. I want it to be a sidewalk too. So it'll just be out the front door, hang a right, and bam, there's the building.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
One day. My friend Scott has a metal building he put up. It's like 30 by 35, and he has a rat room out there, a garage, and then a snake room. And it's probably 30 yards from the house. So you have to walk through whatever, but it's nice. Like he's got so much room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't complain about room. I have a good amount of space. I just have too much stuff sometimes, but like it'd be nice to have more space.
Yeah. More space, more snakes.
That's my worries. If I had more, I'd love to have more space and not get any more snakes. But I feel like if I had more space, I'd be like, what could I fill there? But I've had these delusions of like, if I had more space, I would do like a wall of bigger cages and just have like females on that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And then have it so like the females could live in there, and then you could have the males and whatever. And then you could move things around and have options, especially like since buying these animal plastics cages. Cause I did a tree monitor stack. So we have a stack behind our tree monitors. It's like a 4x2x4. On top of it's a 4x2x3. Next to it's a 3x2x4 and a 3x2x3. And the goal is to put basically a pass through between each set of cages. So the 4-foots could, like, if you have a pair on the other side, you could open up the thing and they could go back and forth if they wanted to.
Nice.
And that way you wouldn't have to actually like pull them out to introduce them. We could just take off the caps and they could go back and forth. And I'm like, wouldn't that be awesome if I could have like a wall like that?
Oh, hell yeah.
It just means I'd have to have less.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
No, it's true. It's just picking the less.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the problem, is whenever you go, oh, I have 12 clown ball pythons or whatever else, be like, but remember I got this one from so-and-so and I made this one, whatever else, how do I choose who's going to go? And I'm like,
yeah,
but I made these babies and I've had this one since 2012. And like, you get these attachments of things that you're like, I really like you. And then you're like, I don't know. It's that for me, that's the whole thing. It's like, I have all these nostalgic things of why I picked this one or did that or where it came from. And that makes it hard to move some of the adults out, where the people that rotate their adults all the time, I find that to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I just can't be that. Like, I'm just not that guy, you know?
How old is your oldest snake?
I mean,
I know you said an 18-year-old Borneo before.
Yeah,
right?
She unfortunately is not with me anymore. But I mean, I have an olive python and a Macklot's python that have each given me like 9, so they're probably 16.
Wow.
I've got some ball pythons that I made here in like 06. So I've definitely got some like 2011s that I made here. That's what, like, some of those I have like regular pied girls that, like, my daughter is like, that's my snake. Her name is Oreo. I only like that one. And so I'm like, well, crap. Like, you know, she came back in here one time and took Post-it notes and named everything. And so now it's like she remembers who's who. And so that just adds another level to, I'm like, well, I'm going to get rid of this one. And she's like, are you getting rid of so-and-so? And I'm like, oh boy. Like, you can't name them.
You can't get rid of buttons?
Yeah, don't name them. Then I can't do it. But
I know. I have to spend tomorrow slaughtering rabbits.
How do you do you CO2 them?
No, I'm gonna do cervical dislocation.
Oh wow. Yeah. I've done that in my. Are you using those for human food or snake food?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what Vin breeds rabbits for. I think human food as well and snake food.
Yeah, I'm gonna do so that I don't really have anything that can eat a rabbit yet.
That Argentine can't, or are they just too big?
She could, but I would have had to have culled them earlier. Okay. Yeah, I kind of let them. I'm figuring this whole all 9 of these will be for human consumption. Although we need to hold a male back because our male died. So we got to hold a male back, and then I'm thinking about holding 2 of the younger females back and getting rid of 2 of the 2 nasty breeders. I shouldn't say nasty. They're not nice, compared to our other breeders. So it makes it harder because, like, the kids do most of the care with those. And, but yeah, that was you saying the naming thing. It was like, you cannot name any of the babies.
Right. Yeah. And I can't even imagine, like, I would love to do something like that and have like a rabbit pen outside, but I'm like, I can only imagine how that would go.
They're not going to be part of this experience. That's for damn sure.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea to make it. So it's you guys go to the park, wherever you got to go.
I'm having anxiety about it, and I am legitimately not looking forward to it. And it's about 2 weeks past due now because I've been putting it off.
Yeah. I mean, I've done what you're doing, so I get it.
Yeah. But soon it'll be meat in the freezer, and it'll be, a lot of hard work put into it. So I think we're going to appreciate it more.
That's all white meat too. It's supposed to be really good for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super lean meat. So
you got to do what you got to do. It's the food chain.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, it's the alternative is we're totally disconnected from the entire life being taken process, and you just walk into a supermarket and you pick it up and throw it in your cart and walk out, so
right.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be that easy, in my opinion.
Right. I agree with
that. Wasn't that easy for most of human history.
Yeah, but we're a different breed than they were.
We are, yeah. I was talking to Nick Mutton yesterday and today, and he said we domesticated ourselves. Humans domesticated themselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Nick, like I knew Nick before he got on his fitness journey, and like he's like a different guy then. I mean, he's evolved himself. I mean, he really has.
Did he rewild himself?
I mean, he's probably. I bet she's 50, 80 pounds lighter than he was, maybe more. Wow. I don't know, and like in incredible shape. I mean, I remember talking to him on the phone. I'm like, all the things that I would like to do in my life at this point in time, I just need to figure out how to do it. which is I probably need to get up earlier, which doesn't seem possible the way that my life goes. But it's just like, you know, he has discipline that he has put into place that has done him well, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah,
but I see your videos. You're doing pretty well yourself.
Well, I'm just trying to put stuff out for people, you know. Just wait, are you talking about the podcast?
No, I was talking about like I know you've done somewhere you're like, I guess after a workout or whatever else. Where you?
Oh yeah, the pump. Yeah. That's just I get a good pump. You're going to Daytona this year, right?
Yeah.
So I'll see you there, and you'll be like, this guy's tiny. He's small. He's not swole. Yeah, I blow up and then I deflate and I'm filled with self-loathing.
I spent before having kids and whatever else, I was a multiple time a week. I never was lean, but I spent a lot of time. I had a good bulk as far as like being able to swell up a little bit. So I get it.
Yeah. Yep. And then the next day it's gone. Or for me, it is. I wake up and I'm like, all right, time to do it again. I work out 5 days a week just so I can feel good for a few minutes out of each day.
Whatever works.
Oh, man. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we made this happen. It
only took a couple weeks.
Yeah. A couple weeks. No big deal.
52 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, once we got to get you and Ron on together. I think that would be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we'll set it up. Now I know what I'm getting into. We'll set it up for like a Friday evening, okay. 8:00.
Sounds good.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, man. It's good talking to you.